14 years ago, the Titanic was launched.
Oh, wow.
It's 56 years ago that John Lennon and Yoko Ono recorded Give Peace a Chance when they were having that bed-in.
The bed-in. How many years ago?
56.
Because I remember that.
Yeah. It's 48 years ago since God Save the Queen by the Sex Pistols was banned.
Oh, yes, remember that one.
And this is the one that frightens me. It is 27 years since Jerry Halliwell left the Spice Girls.
Oh, my goodness.
Because of exhaustion and creative differences.
98.
Yeah,
That's 27 years.
Is it? Well, I don't know.
Do my
Maths is better than mine. 27
years since she left.
Yeah.
Well, the big hit, first big hit was 96, I think. And they had those 2 years, didn't they?
They were an incredible phenomenon, weren't they? Isn't somebody somewhere thinking of making some sort of AI show?
Yes, like an Avatar film.
Yeah. So
yes.
you go to a Spice Girl... I mean, that would be quite popular.
Yeah, we're going to go.
You go to a Spice Girls show, but they're not actually in it, it's their avatars.
Yeah, so it's like the ABBA thing.
Yeah.
But
I'll bet the atmosphere would be terrific.
it probably would be very good. I don't know if it's a bit
Should we all
weird,
go?
or that sort of thing. No. I was never a Spice Girls fan.
No,
So
but they were a phenomenon. And
they were, yeah.
They would be worth seeing, I think. I really do. But there you go.
Well, yeah. Anyway, it makes you feel old, this one, however old you are. Let's kick off with the Attorney-General, Lord Hermer. You probably hadn't heard of until yesterday, but now his name is everywhere. He's causing a stir, of course. He compared calls from MPs to leave the ECHR to the rise of Nazi Germany in the 1930s.
Yeah, he was speaking at the annual security lecture at the Royal United Services Institute, and he claimed calls for the UK to quit international agreements echoed similar demands made by legal experts in the 1930s in Germany. Of course, we all know what happened after that.
Well, Number 10 has told GB News that Sir Keir Starmer has full confidence in his Attorney-General.
Well, let's talk to the politics editor for HuffPost UK, Kevin Schofield, who's with us now. It's almost the worst thing to do to say he has my full confidence, because the next thing is usually the chop.
Yeah, the dreaded vote of confidence. I mean, when this happens a lot, actually, we ask the Prime Minister's spokesman if any minister's in a bit of trouble, does he have confidence? Yeah. And they have to say yes. Because if they don't, then obviously all hell breaks loose. Yeah, I mean, but it's never a good idea, I think, as a politician, when you start comparing opponents to Nazis. Once you bring the Nazis into a political debate, then you're losing, really. And this was foolish. And he's admitted as much, to be fair, but only after a huge backlash.
Yeah, but the problem for the Prime Minister on this one would seem to be that Lord Hermer wasn't in the shadow cabinet, he wasn't anything to do with them, and he was brought in and ennobled specifically by Sir Keir Starmer to have this job. So this is a personal appointment.
No, you're right, this is on Keir Starmer. Him and Lord Hermer go back quite a long way.
Like were they at university together?
Yeah, they go way, way back. There was also another human rights lawyer, very much cut from the same political cloth. If anything, he's probably more liberal, actually, than Keir Starmer. And it's not the first time. You're right, normal people will not have heard of Lord Hermer, and why should you have heard of the Attorney-General? But within Westminster, he has already been quite controversial. It's been less than a year, obviously, since he's been in the job, but he's seen by a lot of his political colleagues as a roadblock. He's seen as, rather than just being able to pass judgment on whether something is legal or not, which is his job, he inserts his opinion into policy, and that gets up the nose of Secretaries of State who think, well, that's not your concern. You just tell me whether it's legal or not. So, yeah, he's not the most popular guy in the Cabinet, I think it's safe to say, and this obviously won't help.
I mean, the thing with this is when you look at it, and because we've seen this time and time and time again on various issues, he can't actually... I mean, why are we holding back? Because he can't survive this, can he? I'd be very surprised.
I mean, I take your point that this is on Keir Starmer. So if he has to resign in disgrace or if he's sacked, then that reflects badly on the Prime Minister. So it may well be that Starmer tries to tough it out for as long as possible.
But that'd look worse, wouldn't it?
Perhaps. But, I mean, sometimes with these things, unless there is another revelation, unless there is a further outburst of anger about something else that he's done, then it can sometimes just quietly go away. I think the Sunday papers will be quite interesting. If there's the Sunday political hacks will be all over this. They'll be looking to get a fresh line on Hermer because he's got a target on his back now.
I mean, was it really so awful what he said?
I mean, it was...
I mean, he was speaking as a lawyer, and he was saying when a country rejects the process of law, anything can happen. Look what happened in 1930s Germany. I mean, was it really so awful what he said?
I think if you are political and if you are an experienced politician, which obviously he's not, as Stephen says, he's pretty new to the game, you know better than to just bring in 1930s Germany when you are criticising your political opponents because of all the connotations, very obvious connotations about Nazism. And if you read what he said, he did not say Tories and Reform are Nazis. He wasn't quite as obvious as that. But in a very legalistic way, he was giving a nod and a wink to the suggestion as well. If you want to leave the ECHR, if you want to assert the role of the state over the rule of law, well, look where there are other examples that he could have used. You didn't have to use 1930s Germany. And once you bring that in, then I think you're opening yourself up to a lot of criticism.
It's the end of a very odd week for the government, I think, all of this. I mean, to be ending with this row, and then this extraordinary week where we had these, a statement from Nigel Farage, saying what he wanted to lay out. The fact that Keir Starmer then very quickly organised a press conference to rebut it.
Yeah.
It felt like we're in the middle of a general election campaign.
Yeah, and a general election campaign where, bizarrely, the government are more concerned about a party with only 5 MPs than they are with the official opposition.
Chris Hope's question was absolutely amazing, wasn't it? Because it crystallised, why does somebody like Nigel Farage have more in common with people in the Red Wall than you? Because it should be the other way around.
Yeah.
And how come he's living rent-free in your head?
Well, that's exactly what it looks like. Now, we're told that Keir Starmer personally took umbrage at what Nigel Farage had to say in his speech, and he says, right, we've got to go after him. So they hurriedly set up this speech, press conference, visit up north, met factory workers. Nigel Farage says he's the man of the working people. I'm the man of the working people.
Here I am in a factory.
Yeah, exactly. Really awkwardly meeting ordinary people. So it is very strange, and it's not good for Kemi Badenoch either, because it's almost as if she's been cut out of the equation. When in actual
she's
fact,
not even anywhere visible, is she?
Apparently she was on holiday this week, so which I was speaking to a few Tory MPs this week as well. They're not terribly happy with her, but that's a side issue. But it's fascinating. You've got to remember as well, we're still 4 years out from a general election,
which is the odd thing. Because it just doesn't feel... It feels like this general election campaign is just going to go on for 4 years.
I think
what it feels like.
Unfortunately, brace yourselves. I think it's going to be like this for quite some time. And you speak to people in Number 10 and they are convinced that it will be Nigel Farage versus Keir Starmer come the next election.
Well, Keir Starmer made it that way when he mentioned his name 16 times in that very short press conference in which he said very little. I mean, that was extraordinary, wasn't it? He's elevating Nigel Farage to the same level as himself.
Well,
he's the Prime Minister.
Yeah, you could say that he's just playing into Nigel Farage's hands right now. And you've only got to look at the opinion polls to see, I guess, why they are worried, because if anything, what's undeniable, Reform have increased in popularity since the local elections when they won 677 seats. Since then, they've soared ahead. Labour 8-9 points behind, the Tories another 2 or 3 points behind. So I think what they try to do, they're trying to, if you excuse the expression, strangle Reform at birth. They don't want to. If you go after them now, and then hopefully over the next 4 years it will get into the public.
But are they all sitting in their offices, I mean, in both government and in the Conservative Party, saying, well, what are they doing? What's Reform doing that's making them so popular? Because a lot of it is down to the fact that, as you said, Nigel is, effectively, a rich public school boy, but he connects with people because he's talking it's a bit like Trump. He's talking in a way that people can respond to.
Yep.
And they're not.
No.
So why aren't they learning from that?
I don't know. And Boris Johnson as well.
Yes, exactly.
Labour went after Boris Johnson in the same way, and it is strange. And I think you insult the public's intelligence when you say, well, you can't like this guy because he went to a private school. You can't like this guy because he used to be a stockbroker. Well, voters will decide whether or not they like someone. And there was one pollster, I think, put it quite well recently. They said, voters seem to like politicians that are enjoying themselves, that seem to be enjoying themselves. Boris Johnson always seemed like he was enjoying himself. Yes. Nigel Farage seems like he's enjoying himself. Trump as well, whereas your more mainstream politicians like Keir Starmer just seem quite robotic and uncomfortable, and people can sense that.
Well, that's an interesting point of view.
Well, that was a point made by the Guardian reporter, was it, who asked that question and said, "Why are you so robotic?" or something.
And he gave a robotic answer
Yes,
just to emphasise the point. Yeah.
All right, Kevin, thanks very much indeed. I'll see you later.
It was an absolutely extraordinary press conference, wasn't it?
Very odd.
Every single question that was asked of him was a negative question.
But it's like, why on earth did they decide to hold it? It makes no political sense whatsoever. Anyway, and a spokesman on the Lord Hermer row, a spokesman for the Attorney General has told GB News the Attorney General gave a speech defending international law which underpins our security, protects against threats from aggressive states like Russia, and helps tackle organised immigration crime. He rejects the characterisation of his speech by the Conservatives. He acknowledges, though, that his choice of words was clumsy and regrets having used this reference.
But he does now. OK, let's look now to US politics. And President Trump says Elon Musk will always be with us, despite him leaving the administration.
Well, during his Oval Office farewell, Musk reflected on his time at Doge, doubling down on his previous claim the department could help the administration save $1 trillion.
Today it's about a man named Elon, and he's one of the greatest business leaders and innovators the world has ever produced. He stepped forward to put his very great talents into the service of our nation, and we appreciate it.
So I look forward to continuing to be a friend and advisor to the president, continuing to support the Doge team, and we are relentlessly pursuing $8 trillion in waste and fraud reductions, which will benefit the American taxpayer. That's it, really. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
All right.
There you are, the handshake that says it all. Professor of US and International Politics at the University College Dublin, Scott Lucas joins us now. Morning, Scott. They would have held that press conference and said goodbye anyway, wouldn't they? Because Elon Musk had literally just come to the end of his contract.
Yes, but there's a wider context. So if the start of the joke is two narcissists walk into the White House, what's the punchline? Is it the bluster about the so-called Department of Government Efficiency, which actually has saved little, if any, money, while government spending rose 6% since January? Is it Musk fallout with key White House advisors that pushed him out? Is it his black eye? Was it the allegations that came out yesterday about his drug use? You know, all of this was in the mix yesterday. You're absolutely right that Musk was due to leave at the end of May, but the wider context is that there were a lot of questions about Doge from within the administration, even as 250,000 federal employees are being forced out. And Musk was suffering on the business front as well. In particular, his car company, Tesla, had been hit severely because of people being very unsettled about his political activism. And there were the rising questions about conflicts of interest because his companies like SpaceX were benefiting from some of the actions that Doge was carrying out.
Yeah, but what is interesting is the diplomatic end to all of this, because I mean, Elon Musk has been critical of some Trump policies only in the last couple of days, which normally would, of course, get the ire of the president. Well, he's let him go with a smile and a handshake, which is unusual.
Let's talk on Monday. First of all, why Elon Musk went is because he had rows. I mean, he had a social media row with a key Trump advisor named Peter Navarro, with some very unusual language. He had a stand-up fight with Scott Bessent, verbal fight with Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary. So there was that. But the key thing we're watching out for is on Sunday night, in a pre-recorded interview, he's going to tell a major U.S. outlet, CBS News, that Trump's big and beautiful bill might be big, but it's not beautiful in terms of its spending. They tried to pave that over with this meeting yesterday. Whether Trump simply stays silent about that attack on the centerpiece, the economic centerpiece of his first term alongside the tariffs, we'll have to see.
Yeah, I mean, things aren't going swimmingly at the moment for President Trump, are they? Quite a few things that he promised he would sort of do in the first 24 hours of his presidency simply haven't happened.
Yeah, well, you know, the thing about Trump 2.0 versus 1.0, you know, to give credit to the administration is that they came out all guns blazing. You know, they talked a lot in Trump 1.0. This time, you've got more than 140 executive orders. But, well, what you're finding here is when you throw a lot of mud on the wall, there's going to be some pushback. Now, let's talk about the courts, where I think you've got a fundamental battle, one that actually is about the future of the U.S. system. But you could talk about where it is trying to push back on the tariffs, even as Trump, amidst all the uncertainty, just jacked up the steel tariffs to 50% last night. You can talk about the court contest over migrants, asylum seekers, and refugees, which are limiting that attempt to deport and even disappear people. I think you're going to have forthcoming battles about the attempt to curb international students, to prevent them from coming to the United States. And you've got the ongoing court battles about the attempts effectively to undermine, if not destroy, some U.S. government agencies by either banishing them or by cutting their workforces willy-nilly.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's going to be interesting. But even with the... is he sitting comfortably on the tariff issue in the sense that even if the appeals court finds against him and rules that the tariffs are not legal, he can take it to the... Supreme Court. Supreme Court, is that what I'm thinking about? Yeah, Supreme Court. Which is stacked in his favour.
Yeah, the judges are Republicans, basically, aren't they?
It will go to the Supreme Court, but I think there's 2 points here. The first is just beyond the court. The key thing here is the economic uncertainty that this is causing, with effects on the UK as well as elsewhere. It's affecting trade, investment, it's affecting markets. But on the legal situation, there has been some pushback from people that were appointed by Trump, especially Amy Coney Barrett, Neil Gorsuch, against some of the Trump actions. So we don't know which way the courts will go on the tariffs. Here's the real threat, Stephen and Ann. Stephen Miller, Donald Trump's advisor, came out earlier this week and said that the courts, rulings on whether or not the tariffs can be legal under the attempt to invoke emergency action amounted to a judicial coup. When you have Trump and his advisors effectively saying that they don't believe in the rule of law, that they think that judges have no right to rule in their actions, that's a fundamental threat to the U.S. system, which is based on that notion of checks and balances.
OK, Scott, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning in what is a very interesting time politically. It
is, isn't it? And I totally get what Scott says about the markets. I mean, they've dipped tremendously since the tariffs came in. They rebounded significantly at one point when the initial judgment was made. But
I wonder if the Supreme Court will overturn the last decision.
But it's fascinating because, of course, Trump says we're the short-term pain for long-term gain. Maybe you've just got to take the hit rather than look at what the markets do immediately.
And what was it with Elon Musk's black eye?
Oh, well, apparently his son hit him, XY plus 2 minus 6, whatever it's called.
X for short, I think he's called.
Right, all right.
Little X.
Apparently he said to his son, hit me in the face.
And so he did.
And he's got a black eye as a result. Why you would say that to a 4-year-old or whatever, I don't know.
No, well, roughhousing. Strange, isn't it?
Say, hit me in the face. He's got a black eye. Right, should we see what...
Look.
Yeah, should we have a look at the weather? It's going to be nice, apparently.
Yes.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. This weekend, we could see some quite squally showers at times, a risk of thunderstorms, but it's not going to be a total washout. There'll be plenty of brighter spells and feeling particularly warm across the southeast as we head towards this afternoon. There were very different story across Scotland, Northern Ireland, some quite blustery showers moving their way eastwards. This turning heavy at times, possibly thundery during the morning, but it's really into the afternoon across the northeast of England where we could potentially see some thunderstorms. But across central areas, parts of the southeast, that's where we'll see the best of the brightness, but it's likely to feel quite warm, quite muggy at times, highs reaching around 26 to 27 degrees Celsius. I'm afraid the unsettled weather is set to last across Scotland through much of the day. Still plenty of quite heavy, showery outbreaks skirting their way eastwards, turning quite blustery, particularly across exposed coasts. But across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, it should brighten up nicely. There is still the risk of the odd shower at times. But elsewhere across England and Wales, mostly dry and bright. That's away from Wales, perhaps the far west of Cornwall. A little cloudier here, potentially with some drizzle. But it's really across this southeast where it's going to remain mostly dry and warm, and then overnight once again there should be plenty of dry spells, some low cloud at times, but once again it's across the northwest, western parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, where we see a return of the cloud, some heavy outbreaks of rain by the time we reach the morning, and still quite windy here. And across the southeast, another mild and muggy night to come, many towns and cities not really dropping below 12 or 13 degrees. Now for Sunday, many areas seeing a drier and brighter day once again, mainly across the south, still across Scotland, Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, a return of the blustery showers, but brightening up later, a mix of sunny spells and showers, but it's likely to feel like a fresher day for all, but still highs reaching the low 20s, so it's still going to be warm and pleasant where you catch the sunshine.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Still to come, we're going to be heading to Dunkirk, where a flotilla will be returning to Ramsgate today after staging an event to honour Operation Dynamo, 85 years on. So that's coming up next. You're watching GB News Breakfast.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Bev.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
Nigel is back.
Good evening.
Unfiltered.
Are these proposals bold enough?
Uncompromising.
Will it bring growth?
Unmissable.
We as a country are brilliant.
Nigel Farage returns this Tuesday from 7 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain. Its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
6:26. Now, about 20 little ships will be returning to Ramsgate today.
The flotilla set off from the Royal Harbour for Dunkirk on May the 21st as part of events marking the 85th anniversary of Operation Dynamo, where, of course, over 338,000 Allied troops were safely evacuated back to England during the Second World War.
Well, our reporter, Doogie Beasy, is right in the thick of it all. Morning, Doogie.
Good morning, Stephen. Good morning, Anne, and welcome to Dunkirk. Yes, this was was described as our darkest hour, and of course it was British expeditionary forces that had to get lifted off the beaches, and the real problem was that the big naval ships couldn't get in close enough, so these little small boats that you see, 933 of them, were called up, and they managed to evacuate most of the troops out of there over that week period. And unfortunately, out of those 933 small boats, unfortunately, only 697 of them returned. The majority of those that were wrecked at that stage were under enemy fire. And every big anniversary, these small ships return to Dunkirk to educate, to remember, and then to sail back to Britain. And there has been so much interest here in Dunkirk in these small ships. There's only about 60 of the fleet left. And last night I spoke to Kevin Finn, the Commodore of the fleet.
How important is it that we remember Dunkirk?
Incredibly important. 85 years ago, there were 250,000 troops on the beach up there, another 25,000 in the rear guard. None of them knowing whether they were going to live or die, or whether they were going to be rescued, or even if they could be rescued. And based upon what's happening today, we need to remember what happened then, and commemorate that, and celebrate the fact that we still are aware of it, and these boats exist as well. So it's just so important to us.
Lots of these little boats back in the day were only brand new,
Yes.
and the Admiralty just took them away and used them.
Yeah.
And the men that were on them didn't necessarily own them, and there was quite a few of them destroyed.
There were 240 of them destroyed over that whole period, either sunk at sea or shot to pieces on the beach. But I mean, today there are 110 members of the association, about 90 that float as they speak, and we know that 63 to 64 made it here. 7 failed on the way through before that, so we were at 70. I mean, they're all 97 to 105 years of age. So just getting them here is an achievement.
Well, it was Britain's darkest hour, and these civilian vessels really played their part. And of course, we mustn't forget of the 51st Highlanders. They were the rear guard. Over 10,000 of them were captured or executed at the time, and these little ships played a role over the next few weeks of going up and down very close to the coast, trying to pick up those Highlanders that had managed to escape to the coastline. So not only were they used in Dunkirk, they were used for close-in shore work over that period of the next few weeks and months that came afterwards. But what an experience it is for me, because my own grandfather was here in Dunkirk, 16 years of age, and then he went and joined the Royal Navy. It is quite emotional to be on these little boats, of which he probably was on.
Yeah, it's quite something. Quite something. Doogie, I know we're going to be back to you throughout the course of the day, but for now, thanks very much indeed.
Yeah, it looks like a nice day there as well for it.
Yeah.
But I must say, we talk about the little ships and everything, and we marvel at how wonderful it was. You don't think so much, and it's worth being reminded of the incredible danger some of those ordinary fishermen were in. I mean, the MOD or the service personnel took over the ships in most cases, but not in all cases. Some of them just went out there and drove their little boats out there, or whatever. You don't drive a boat. What do you do?
Yeah, you do.
Oh, you do? All right. They drove their little boats out there, and they came under fire. It must have been terrifying.
Well, and as Doogie said, his granddad was 16.
Yeah.
16. I mean, it's kids, isn't it, a lot of them? It's absolutely terrifying, but it's quite right. It's all being marked and remembered today.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
Absolutely. There you go, look, that's real footage there. We're seeing black and white, if you're listening on the radio, which, by the way, I do a lot now. Now I've got
Now you've got it in your car.
Now I can actually hear GB News Radio. It's brilliant.
It's good, isn't it, in
Oh,
the car?
it really is. But it does remind you that occasionally we ought to describe what we're seeing there.
Yes.
We're seeing that lovely old black and white footage of very scary stuff happening there when the little ships went over.
No, we can't sanitise it.
No.
So time sanitises things, so we've got to be careful not to, haven't we? Yeah. Right, let's move on. Should we on to something totally different, which is our greatest giveaway. You could drive away with that brand new motorhome worth more than 67 grand and 5 grand in your pocket as well. Here are the details.
It's the final week to see how you could be our biggest winner yet.
Driving away in this Elnag Baron 560 motorhome, courtesy of Marquis Leisure. It has plenty of room for your family of 4. Comes complete with kitchen, bathroom and all the space you'll need for life on the road. And the best news? You can drive it on your existing driving licence. Plus, we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. Don't delay. You can't win if you're not in the draw. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
This motorhome and £5,000 in cash really could be yours. Good luck.
Yeah.
I've been telling Steve he should just buy one.
I wish.
Just buy one. I'm sure you could if you wanted it that much.
When I
Take out a
retire,
mortgage.
I could maybe buy one. Maybe that'd be something to do.
Yeah.
I haven't got the time to use it now,
No,
really.
of course not.
But it's just so lovely. I just so like one.
Yeah.
But anyway, we shall see. We shall see. Right, time now at 6:33 for our daily reflection.
The GB News Daily Reflection.
Hi, I'm Chris Tufnell, the vicar of Uterbridge Parish Church. So many of the stories we love culminate in a great battle or confrontation, won at great cost, allowing the hero and the people they've saved to enjoy peace and rest with those they love. Victory was never the goal itself, the goal was what came after, peace with the ones we love. Such a precious thing, it made the struggle, the fight, the cost worth it in the end. We humans have been telling ourselves versions of that story for as long as we know. It touches something in us that's very deep and very old. Like an early childhood memory we can never quite remember but never quite forget. Some may call it sentimentality or wishful thinking, but might it be the echoes of a true story to which we've just forgotten the names of the characters? The Christian claim is that it is a true story, the true story in which we all live, and that at its heart is not a myth, but a man, Jesus Christ, and that in his death and resurrection, he won the great battle for us at the cost of his life, so that peace, Christians believe, is now available to all who trust in him. The Bible ends beautifully with the promise that just as Jesus left, he'll one day return, and it'll be like a wedding between Jesus and his people who he loves. It ends like this: "Behold, the dwelling place of God is among the people. He will dwell with them. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more." Might this be the true story of struggle, loss, victory, and rest? Not just the story we're in, but the one in which we're invited to find our place.
Still to come, the football summer transfer window hasn't opened yet. on the edge of my seat. But that doesn't mean that deals aren't being done already. Aidan will be here in a few minutes to tell us all about it.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Christie's tonight, we talk about the migrant crisis quite a lot, so I thought I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. For a long time, I believe that we're not being told the full truth about what is really going on when it comes to the invasion of Britain's borders. So today, I decided to come to Calais. We jumped out the car because we spotted this straight away. A boat there, ready to go. Now, they leave a little marker here. I don't think that this red cap on this plinth is an accident, do you? You have people you know in England?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know where in England? London? Manchester?
Yeah, but, in London, in Manchester, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe some friend, yeah, friend. Just friend, yeah.
Yeah.
Just friend.
And they have a good life?
Better from here.
Better than France. Yeah. Better than France. Okay. Lastly,
he has just a Dublin problem. He is okay, but here is Dublin.
The Dublin Agreement?
Yeah, Dublin.
So they can send you back to the first country that you came in? Well, the French police just asked us to move away a little bit, so we've respected their wishes. And what you're looking at now is a migrant boat being winched out of the water. Some quite intrigued locals as well. They must see this all the time, though. So that is one boat stopped from crossing the English Channel. Now, bear in mind that just one of those boats can have up to 70 people on it. Yesterday was a record day in the English Channel, and our source tells us that they had as many as 70 people on a boat that size. So stopping just one of them is quite a significant deal, but doesn't it also just show you how brazen these people are?
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Time for the sport. Aidan's here at 6:39 morning.
Good morning to you both.
So, Bruno Fernandes, is he off?
Well, look, I mean, the numbers eventually have to talk. We say money talks, don't we?
Yeah.
Now, there's an offer on the table.
Listening.
Apparently, Al Hilal in Saudi, they've offered him £65 million a season over 2 years.
You can't get your head
As we
around
often
that.
say when we're discussing football contracts, nice work if you can get it. There's also £100 million transfer fee involved for Manchester United. They, given the player's 30 years old, he's 31 in September, they might see it as a good deal because, of course, they didn't qualify for the Champions League, so they missed out on £100 million there. So maybe this might be a chance to make up the shortfall. As I say, I mean, he's on £15 million a year now. He's got, I think, 2 years left on his contract. At the age of 30, in footballers' territory, in terms of the time span of their career, this is his last big contract, as we might call it. I think he's going to be tempted. The more worrying thing...
Tempted? It's more than doubling his salary. Plus, it'd be tax-free.
If he stays there 2 years, yeah, exactly.
So 65 million per season over 2 years.
Per season, so 100.
Oh yeah, so quadruple his salary plus no tax.
Yes, he's got to stay there 2 years if he's.
So it's like probably 8 times his salary in real terms.
But he'd have to play in this astonishing heat.
Who cares?
He would. he would. But look, how long? They're coming for our best players now, our elite players. They're not coming for players who initially it was guys who were over the hill, who were past their peak. Then they went and got Ivan Toney last season from Brentford by offering him £400,000 a week. Now, top player, played for England, but wasn't playing for a big club. Now they're going for the captain of, all right, Man United are a poor side at the moment, but he personally has had a very good season, and he's one of the best players in the Premier League right now. So they're coming for the Kings. They really are. And I wonder how long it takes before we start losing more and more and more, because what made the Premier League strong in the first place, Stephen, was the finance. And it's going to be no difference for any other sporting event or sporting competition around the world. Saudi, we know different. They're serious about this. And the money looks as if it's adding up for everybody. United get a big fee. Bruno Fernandes quadruples his salary. How long before it just happens more and more and more? That's what I get worried about.
Yeah, well,
a little bit.
I don't blame him, but I'd go.
No.
Yeah, and 2 years, to have to stay there for 2 years,
yes.
That's hardly very difficult, is it?
Not really. I mean, if you think 31, he'll be 32
if
he wants to come back.
Wouldn't it?
Exactly, and it's worked out for a lot of these players. It's life-changing. I mean, look, they're already on good money as it is, but you have to get inside the mind of a footballer. They see their career as being short. They're normally done by about mid-30s. They've got a short period of time to make as much money as possible, and I think this deal, despite what Ruben Amorim says, he says, I don't think he can be swayed by the Saudi money. I mean, who's he trying to get? I think he's going to go.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
We'll talk tennis next time, shall we?
Absolutely,
Because
Amélie
Mauresmo.
A little bit of a row breaking out over there, yeah.
What position does she hold now?
She's the tournament director
is
of the French Open, and that puts her in charge of scheduling.
And is she doing enough for women's tennis? That's the question. But we'll talk about that next time we come round. Lovely.
Right, Kevin Schofield and Susie Stride are going to take us through the papers in just a minute. But first, let's have a look at the forecast for the top European hotspots.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Heatwave conditions set to continue across parts of Europe where 40 degrees Celsius is possible, this turning into a thundery breakdown elsewhere. Now, the heatwave conditions will continue across parts of Portugal, Spain and also Morocco, but it's likely we'll see the peak of heat through today. But this turning into thundery showers, particularly across France and Germany, but elsewhere across Rome, the Adriatic coastline and across Greece, it should be mostly dry, settled, still feeling warm in the sunshine, and temperatures into next week still remaining in the mid-20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Right, it's 6:47, time for the papers now, with political editor of the HuffPost UK, Kevin Schofield, and the political commentator, Susie Stride. Morning to you both.
Morning.
Let's have a look at the Telegraph, Kevin, should we? £1 billion a month in benefits being claimed by households with one foreign national.
Yeah, so that's important. You're accurate there. The headline itself... You're always accurate, obviously, but the headline says foreigners claim £1 billion a month, when in actual fact... it's households with at least one foreign national. So, you know, it could well be that the people claiming benefits in that household are not foreign nationals. So that's worth bearing in mind. However, the trend is pretty clear. It was 461 million in March 2022, and it's now more than doubled to 941 million. So there's clearly a trend there. Yeah. Now, you can absolutely see this being on Reform UK election leaflets going through doors every day, really, between now and the next general election. And what's interesting about it as well is that this is a trend which has been identified by Angela Rayner, who, in a memo that she sent to Rachel Reeves and was leaked and was in the Telegraph, she said basically we should be cracking down harder on benefit payments to immigrants. Would be one way of avoiding having to cut welfare elsewhere. So, so there's definitely a political tension element to this as well. And as I say, regardless of the fact that the headline is a little bit misleading, there's clearly a trend there, and you can understand. I think a lot of people would be like, "Hang on a minute, why is this happening?"
Susie?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. It is something that plays into reform's narrative, and ultimately, yeah, I mean, I can imagine them putting this on leaflets, and I think this is something that obviously a lot of people get frustrated by because they
understandably
think,
though, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is understandable when you think, winter fuel payments being cut here, but money being handed out here. So I think it's just reason why people feel, oh, this is actually not fair. But I think it's interesting what we were saying. It is also kind of playing out there, some of the politics that's going on behind the scenes, playing out there in public as well.
Yeah,
is it interesting as well that actually you said it's Reform UK's narrative, but it is now becoming something that nearly everybody's talking about. Nearly everybody.
Yeah, it's a lot of people just think the system doesn't...
You can mention the unmentionable now, can't you?
Yeah, the system doesn't work for them, and there is a frustration that the mainstream parties, with 14 years of the Tories, they made a mess of it. Labour have been in, albeit for less than a year. Things haven't got any better, and there's just a frustration, a lack of patience, really, with mainstream politics, and that is why I think one of the main reasons, really, why we're seeing Reform, in particular, doing well in the opinion poll.
Let's have a look at the Mail, Susie, should we, where breast cancer screening it's 50 plus now, isn't it? But it could go down to 30 plus for some women.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So millions of women in their 30s could be offered breast cancer checks from the NHS after a world first trial identified those with a higher risk of developing the disease. So currently women are eligible for breast screening from the age of 50, but it may go down to 30. But, I mean, the good thing here is we're going to catch it early. And I think, obviously, go back 20, 30 years, people were dying of breast cancer, and you got that diagnosis and it was...
But it's the leading cause of death. Breast cancer is the leading cause of death in women aged 35 to 50.
Yeah, I mean,
that's an astonishing thing to say.
It is astonishing. It is absolutely, you know, it's shocking, and it's. But what is good is that we're, you know, that thing of like catching it. You know, they're responding to that, and they're saying we're going to increase screening and we're going to bring it down, which I think is really important.
But it's this. I mean, what's important with this is it seems, Kevin, like it's not going to be everybody that gets screened. It's that they will be able to identify those people who are most at risk, and that's a key with a lot of things moving forward.
Yeah, a lot of people are more susceptible to cancer than others, and clearly, as we know, the NHS, like other government departments, have finite resources, so I guess it's better that they target this service to those who are most at risk, and if it can save, you know, women's lives, then fantastic. I mean, 10,000 women under 50 diagnosed with breast cancer, so you know, if you can even save half of those lives, it would be fantastic.
Yeah. I was smiling when I saw this headline last night, Kevin, in the Times this morning. Britain's going to increase spending on defence to 3% of GDP. Great, I thought.
Yeah.
But not for another 9 years.
Yeah, there's an asterisk beside that, really. I mean, this is a slight hardening of the government's position because before today, the position was the ambition was 3% in the next Parliament. Now, John Healey has given the Defence Secretary has given an interview to the Times in which he says, no, that is not an ambition. We are definitely going to do it by 2034. But you're right, I mean, that's nearly a decade away. Yeah. Now, there's a suggestion that he's maybe trying to bounce the Treasury into this, you know, because he's the first one to say it. No one else has come out and said, oh, we'll definitely hit it. And I mean, 3%, you know, I mean, it's an extra £10 billion a year it would be at current prices. And you think, well, hang on a minute. Suddenly we seem to be awash with cash. They're going to U-turn on winter fuel. They're going to lift the two-child benefit cap. They're going to increase defence spending. You think, well, something's got to give. There must be a catch somewhere. Does this mean...
It makes you worried, doesn't it? What are they going to do?
Well,
where are they going to get that money from?
Well, there must be cuts coming elsewhere because they said they're not going to increase taxes. They're not going to increase VAT, income tax or national insurance. So, yeah, I think people are right to be maybe a little bit suspicious of this.
Well, maybe if we are suspicious, when you sit down and enjoy a glass of wine, Susie.
Well, I was just going to say on that other story, I think British people do support that, though, don't they? Do you know what I mean?
Of course they do.
Because ultimately you look at what's going on with Russia, you look at what's going on with China, Iran, and I think if there's one thing that I think British people are like, is actually we do need to put that money into defence, you know.
And they do like a glass of wine.
And they do like a glass of wine. I mean, and this is fascinating, this thing about after a stressful day, having a glass of wine is important, but actually not having more than one a day is important, because otherwise it can be, you know, damaging to your health, is what Professor David Nutt is saying. But I think none of us are probably happy about that comment.
No, but he's saying one glass a year.
A year.
Oh, it's one glass a year?
It's a year.
It. Oh, that's madness. That's madness, surely.
No, one glass of wine
he is,
a
of
year.
Course, he was the former drug czar, wasn't he?
I mean, it's a man who knows his stuff, actually.
Was it in Tony Blair's government he was?
Yes,
he was. Yeah.
He did get dismissed, though, didn't
he? Absolutely.
But I mean, I've talked to him before, and he said cannabis is much safer than alcohol.
Yeah.
In his view, but one glass of wine a year.
I mean, you'd as well just given up, wouldn't you? I mean, who's going to have one? What would you save that for?
When you have it.
Your birthday.
Yeah.
Right. Right, you two, go and console yourselves. We'll see you in an hour. Let's have a look at the weather for you with Honor.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. This weekend, we could see some quite squally showers at times, a risk of thunderstorms, but it's not going to be a total washout. There'll be plenty of brighter spells and feeling particularly warm across the southeast as we head towards this afternoon. Though a very different story across Scotland, Northern Ireland, some quite blustery showers moving their way eastwards. This turning heavy at times, possibly thundery during the morning, but it's really into the afternoon across the northeast of England where we could potentially see some thunderstorms. But across central areas, parts of the southeast, that's where we'll see the best of the brightness, but it's likely to feel quite warm, quite muggy at times, highs reaching around 26 to 27 degrees Celsius. I'm afraid the unsettled weather is set to last across Scotland through much of the day. Still plenty of quite heavy, showery outbreaks skirting their way eastwards, turning quite blustery, particularly across exposed coasts. But across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, it should brighten up nicely. There is still the risk of the odd shower at times. But elsewhere across England and Wales, mostly dry and bright. That's away from Wales, perhaps the far west of Cornwall, a little cloudier here, potentially with some drizzle. But it's really across this southeast where it's going to remain mostly dry and warm. And then overnight, once again, there should be plenty of dry spells, some low cloud at times. But once again, it's across the northwest, western parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, where we see a return of the cloud, some heavy outbreaks of rain by the time we reach the morning, and still quite windy here. And across the southeast, another mild and muggy night to come. Many towns and cities not really dropping below 12 or 13 degrees. Now for Sunday, many areas seeing a drier and brighter day once again, mainly across the south, still across Scotland, Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, a return of the blustery showers, but brightening up later, a mix of sunny spells and showers, but it's likely to feel like a fresher day for all, but still highs reaching the low 20s, so it's still going to be warm and pleasant where you catch the sunshine.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you could be our biggest winner yet, touring in this stylish Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. This brand new 2025 model comes complete with kitchen and bathroom areas and enough space to comfortably sleep a family of 4. We'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to add a few of your favourite things. Don't miss out as lines close on the 6th of June. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This must have been the most difficult time.
Yeah, for him, yeah, obviously. But I noticed there's no mention of the one that happened to me when I was a Top Gear presenter, when I ended up upside down in a ditch just outside Ormskirk and had to burrow my way out of the wreckage.
Gosh.
He was then taken to hospital having been scalped with numerous injuries and was told to keep quiet and not tell anybody about it. And get this, had to ride back from the hospital to my house on a motorcycle. They just keep quiet about it. And they just paid off the guy whose Lotus Classic car was completely written off in the accident.
Gosh.
And the only trace of this incident is on my Wikipedia page, where at the bottom it says, "We love getting together as presenters so we could have a good laugh about what Steve Berry had crashed that week. Jeremy Clarkson, having a good old laugh at my expense."
Well, Steve, I'm really sorry. I had no idea that had happened to you, and obviously,
No,
equally...
you know, nobody's got any idea what happened to me. They just had a good old laugh about it. I had to burrow my way out to that car like a badger. My hands were cut to shreds, and I had to ride home. Having been scalped, I had to have my scalp stapled back onto my head. They told me to shut up and keep quiet about it. And I got 6 grand. The problem for me is it's just dangerous. Once you start messing about with cars and motorbikes, it's just you're rolling the dice every single time you do it. And every so often, it's going to come up snake eyes. And it did for Freddie. And I feel sorry for the lad. It's terrible what happened to him. But I'll tell you what, that £9 million must...
well, it's a dangerous game, isn't it? Steve Berry, thanks indeed for joining us.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning. Pressure piles on the Prime Minister. Sir Keir Starmer has faced calls to sack his Attorney General for comments around Nazism and leaving the ECHR.
Yeah, Lord Hermer was forced to apologise yesterday, with Conservative and Reform MPs still calling for him to be removed from his post.
Yeah, the Tory leader Kemi Badenoch leading those calls. So the Prime Minister insists he has full confidence in his Lord Chief.
President Trump holds a press conference in the Oval Office with Elon Musk because it is the end of Musk's White House contract. But they're still mates.
Around 20 little ships will return to Ramsgate today, marking the 85th anniversary of Operation Dynamo.
85 years on from Dunkirk, we are with the little ships crossing across the Channel. These were the heroes that came to the rescue of Britain's darkest hour.
Thousands of British military personnel and their families are going to have more than £1.5 billion additional funding to improve accommodation.
Also looking at the trend to be skinny, really skinny, how it could prove deadly to the over 60s. So we're debating today if skinny culture is ever a really healthy choice.
And it's the final weekend of the sunniest spring on record. Temperatures apparently this weekend set to reach as high as 27.
Manchester United boss Ruben Amorim is confident his captain Bruno Fernandes won't be swayed by the £130 million on offer on the table in Saudi. We'll look ahead also to tonight's Champions League final in Munich. And French Open tournament director Amélie Mauresmo is accused of undermining women's tennis. More later.
Hello there, good morning. A mixed bag of weather today, some heavy showers, a risk of thunderstorms, but also plenty of warm sunshine. Stay tuned and I'll have all the details.
It's just gone 7 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Ann Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast.
There's an interesting little survey in the papers today about what we think of as being luxurious in this modern world. What is the most luxurious thing that you want in life? You never guess what it is. Though I quite agree.
Cup of tea?
No, actually, no, you're not far off. A little bit of peace and quiet.
Oh, yes.
Is that so? That's how loud the world is these days, that we want peace and quiet. The second is good quality coffee and high-speed internet.
Oh, yes, that's very important, although it shouldn't be if you're going away and you just want to relax. The internet shouldn't be that important.
Fabergé egg. That's the height of luxury for me.
Fabergé egg?
Fabergé egg?
Yeah, yeah. Do you not think that's luxurious? Just sort of signifies opulence, doesn't it? Do you not think?
Well, it does, but I mean, you're never going to get one, are you?
But I know, you never know.
I'd like a tennis bracelet.
Would you?
Oh, yes.
I'd never really heard of it before. It popped up on a sitcom I was watching, an American one. But a tennis bracelet is one of those little jingly diamond bracelet.
Thingy Creek.
It was Thingy Creek. Yeah. How did you know?
I remember that scene.
Yeah.
With Moira Rose demanding a diamond tennis bracelet. Yeah. It's a great show. Hot water taps, you know, the instant boiling water taps. Nowhere to be seen.
Never work, do they?
Yeah, they do, yeah.
Got them here.
No, I can never make them work.
No.
Well, they're sensor operated.
Yeah, because these ones, you're not allowed to touch them. They're sort of COVID-safe ones.
Oh, is that what they are?
Robot vacuum cleaners and next-day deliveries. I do like a next-day delivery.
I like a next-day delivery.
I like a same-day delivery.
A same-day delivery is brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah. But anyway, no, it's all about peace and quiet. I can go with that. Sounds good.
And a sea view. If you're going to a hotel, to be able to see the sea, I think, is a wonderful thing.
Yes, it is a nice thing.
Even if it's, not very good weather, it's still wonderful to see the sea.
Pay a bit extra for it, though, don't you?
Yeah, you do. You pay more for the view.
I'm looking for a hotel in Eastbourne. I'm going to watch the tennis there in a couple of weeks.
Oh, well, every hotel in Eastbourne must have a sea view.
No, not necessarily. No,
no. Sometimes they say
side, can you?
Inland view.
Inland
garden. What is an inland view? Is it a wall or something?
A wall. Yeah. I hate it when you do get a hotel and all you can see is a wall.
Yeah, that really is
depressing.
Not on.
Anyway, never mind. Right, let's have a look at the Attorney General, should we? Lord Hermer, as we were telling you yesterday, he's caused to stir after comparing calls to leave the ECHR to the rise of Nazism in 1930s Germany.
Speaking at the annual security lecture at the Royal United Services Institute. Don't you wish you'd been there? No. Lord Hermer claimed calls for the UK to quit international agreements sort of echoed similar demands that were made by legal experts in 1930s Germany. And we all know what happened next.
Well, Number 10 has told GB News Sir Keir Starmer has confidence in his Attorney-General. He enjoys his full confidence.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing more damning, actually, than somebody saying they have full confidence in you. You're likely to get the chop, probably. Let's ask politics editor for HuffPost UK, Kevin Schofield. I mean, what does he do? What does an Attorney-General actually do?
So the Attorney-General's job is basically to assess legislation, for instance, and give legal advice, basically pass judgment on whether something is legal or not. So maybe one of the obvious examples from previous years was the legality of the Iraq invasion. If you remember, there was a lot of controversy over whether that was legal or not, and it's the Attorney-General basically who has the final say. I remember Suella Braverman, when she was Attorney-General, making a few kind of controversial legal assessments as well. But yeah, that's fine, that's their job, but it's when they start to stray into overt politics like Lord Hermer did with this speech that they can obviously get themselves into trouble, because at the end of the day, they're lawyers, which he certainly is, rather than a politician.
So they don't make policy, but they just guide. They guide everybody else.
They make sure that the government is sticking to the law, basically. They're the ultimate arbiter on whether or not something is legal or illegal, if the government can be doing it, if legislation, for instance, is in line with the law. But that's fair enough, that is their job. But as I say, this was ill-advised. And someone, I just don't know how it slipped through, you know. Surely he has advisors who read this, or was this shown to Number 10 in advance to say, look, I'm going to make this speech. Do you want to just have a look at it, make sure, you know, I'm not going to get us into trouble? Because surely someone with half a political brain should have read it and thought, hang on a minute, once you stray into comparing your...
You never compare anything to Nazi Germany.
Well,
I mean, you just don't.
You've kind of lost the argument then, really, you know. And also, it downgrades the severity and significance of the Nazis and what they did. When you start comparing mainstream parties, Conservatives and Reform, now you might not agree with Conservatives or Reform, but, you know, they're not Nazis. And to suggest that they are, even if he dressed it up in quite legalistic language, was ill-advised, and now he's landed himself in a lot of hot water.
Yeah, and he's landed the Prime Minister in hot water, hasn't he, because he was a sort of personal appointment.
Yeah, absolutely. He wasn't in and around the Labour Party before they got into power.
No, it was Emily Thornberry, wasn't it? Who was Shadow Attorney-General.
She was, and, you know, that was controversial. She didn't make it into... she didn't get any job as a minister, and that obviously didn't go down well with her. But, yeah, he brought in Lord Hermer, an old friend of his from way back, a fellow human rights lawyer. So at the time, that did raise a few eyebrows, that he'd been brought right into the heart of government. And, you know, this isn't the only time. Now, most normal people will never have heard of Lord Hermer. Why should they have? But he has been quite controversial in the background. He's not all that popular, frankly, with a lot of other ministers.
So what will Starmer do about it, do you think?
Well, he'll hope that it will go away. He'll hope that there's nothing else lurking, a potential story, a negative headline coming maybe over this weekend. I mean, generally speaking, with these types of things, if it only lasts a day or two, you can probably ride it out. But if, and I'm sure lots of Sunday newspaper colleagues will be combing all over Lord Hermer, as will the Tories. Have been doing a lot of research in the background to try and find any more dirt on this guy. If more things come out, then it puts Starmer in a bit of a difficult position, but he will be loathed to get rid of this guy.
Everyone's being very badly advised at the moment, aren't they? Because, I mean, if this was... Surely some advisor of his must have seen this. And then, of course, you've got the Prime Minister, who must have been advised by someone that going on an attack against Nigel Farage was a sensible thing, which it really isn't 4 years before an election.
No, it does make you look rattled. And
yeah,
as Chris Hope and also Nigel Farage has said, you know, it's like he's living rent-free in... I'm living rent-free in his head. Now, I spoke to someone in Number 10 a couple of days ago about it, and they were obviously, as you might imagine, saying, you know, it was the right thing to do. They think that Nigel Farage made a terrible mistake by talking about making spending commitments, cutting taxes, increasing, bring back winter fuel and lifting the two-child benefit cap. So they think this was an open goal, and they had to punch that bruise. They were like, right, we've got to go in there and we've got to hit them hard.
Yes, but
and compare them to Liz Truss. But
Nigel Farage is in opposition, which means you can say a lot more and get away with it, obviously, because you're not having to enact anything. He's also got 5 parliamentary seats.
Yeah.
So why on earth would the Prime Minister feel that he's got to do this? It's just smacks of panic.
It does smack of panic. I agree with you. And I think it demonstrates that already Number 10 have decided that the next general election will be a straight choice for voters between Nigel Farage or Keir Starmer as Prime Minister.
And yet there's stories in the papers this morning as well saying there are senior people within government who've said they don't think Starmer's going to actually stand at the next election.
I mean, there's been a few whispers about that, and we've also seen Angela Rayner manoeuvring. I would be very surprised, though, if he didn't stand at the next general election. I think, though, the real pinch point, or the next pinch point, will be next May, when we've got more local elections, Scottish election, Welsh election. If Labour do badly, and there's every reason to think they will do badly, as will the Conservatives, then there will be pressure. They'll be saying, right, what are you going to do to turn this around? Because then we'll only be 3 years out from the general election.
Yeah,
Reform are still riding high.
And presumably that would be game over for Kemi Badenoch. I mean, even at this point in the electoral cycle, she should have done much better in the last local elections.
Absolutely. Well, funnily enough, I've written a piece about this today. I was speaking to a pretty senior Conservative MP yesterday, and he was saying that they knew the local elections would be bad, but they were so much worse than they thought. And since then, if anything, the Tories have become more unpopular. You know, they're third in one poll, they were fourth behind the Lib Dems. One Tory MP said to me, I always thought she would get until next year. She'd probably go in June or July next year. He thinks 50-50 that she sees out this year. Now, the one thing saving her at the moment is she can't be challenged before November, because that'll be a year since she's become leader. And then you're only 6 months out from the local election, so that might give her a bit of breathing space. But there's no doubt she's under a lot of pressure.
Is there anything that can happen that would force a general election sooner than 4 years' time?
No.
Vote of no confidence in the government?
But they've got such a big majority.
Yeah, they'd always survive, wouldn't they?
150 seats. There's no way. You'd need half the Labour. You need about 80 Labour MPs to vote for a general election, and that's just
ain't going to happen.
Not going to happen.
No. Never say never.
No,
it would be good
never
fun.
Say never.
It'd be fun for political journalists.
It certainly would.
But no, I wouldn't expect it to happen.
No, you wouldn't put money on it.
No, definitely.
All right, Kevin, we'll see you later. Thank you.
Just wondering. Oh, by the way, we ought to tell you that a spokesman for the Attorney General, Lord Hermer, told GB News the Attorney General gave a speech defending international law, which underpins our security, protects against threats from aggressive states like Russia, and helps tackle organised immigration crime. He rejects the characterisation of his speech by the Conservatives. He acknowledges, though, that his choice of words was clumsy and regrets having used this reference.
Right. 13 minutes past 7. About 20 little ships will be returning to Ramsgate today.
Yes, the flotilla set off from the Royal Harbour for Dunkirk on May the 21st as part of events marking the 85th anniversary of Operation Dynamo, where over 338,000 Allied troops were safely evacuated, astonishingly, during the Second World War.
Well, Doogie Beattie is in Dunkirk for us. What's happening at the moment, Doogie?
Well, hello and welcome to Dunkirk. We are aboard a vessel called Our Lizzie, and we will be actually travelling right across the channel with the fleet that is here. They've just actually took off about 5 minutes ago. You can see behind us there some of the other little ships coming. There's about 60 of them in total. 20 of them will be going into Ramsgate. But really, when you're on board these little ships, it is amazing, because you've got to remember there was about 900 of these little vessels were actioned to get the British Expeditionary Force off the beaches. 338,000 of them they managed to get off after they were pushed back by the Germans right to the longest beach in Europe, which is Dunkirk. And of course, the 51st Highlanders didn't make it off that beach. They were the rear guard. They had this to fight to the last man, and about 10,000 of them were captured or executed. And these little boats were then used in the coming months up and down the coast, trying to pick up any of those boys that had escaped. But what a historic journey. And earlier on, I spoke with Matthew Kane. So tell us a little bit about your craft.
So she is lifeboat number 8 from the RMS 1930 Lady of Man, a Manx boat that went across to Dunkirk 4 times in 1940. The mothership was broken up in 1972. This lifeboat was saved, converted into a fishing boat. We came across her about 17 years ago. She was in a bit of dilapidated state, but we did some restoration of her, and it was always our ambition to bring her back here.
You can see actually from this boat, it's one of the smaller boats.
Yeah.
And it actually probably had much more dangerous missions than the rest.
Well, she was the only boat that had an engine, so she was number 8 of 10. This one had the engine, so she was often dropped in ahead of any of the others. So, yeah, she was dropped in, over to the beach, pick up the soldiers, bring her to the mothership that was moored at the mole, taking as many of the soldiers off the mole as they could as well.
Well, you can hear from that, and you can see from that, that little ship, they're all wooden ships, and they had to go right into the beaches under heavy, heavy fire. Many of them were blown apart, and for me that loves history, I mean, this is amazing. As we're travelling down through the docks that are here, it's going to take us probably about 45 minutes to an hour to get actually out to the mole, but you can't help but feel sorry for those guys, that there must have been fierce fighting here, really, really heavy fighting, because you can see a lot of the buildings here have all been rebuilt. There is some with lovely architecture, but lots of them were rebuilt in the 50s, and it shows you that the real damage that was done in this area and the massive loss of life that must have been here for both sides. So it really is quite an honour to travel back on these little ships.
Yeah, Doogie, remind us, will you, of your family's link to what happened to Operation Dynamo?
Yes, my own grandfather was here. He was a Sussex man. He sailed across with that fleet. He was about 16 years of age, and they spent many days here evacuating those troops. And just shortly after that, he then joined the Royal Navy and served on bringing the Liberty ships from America and the Arctic convoys. And he didn't speak of any of it until my own brother at 16 decided that he was going to join the Royal Navy. He was going to sign up for the reserves, and my grandfather went absolutely mad, and then the whole thing came out about what he went through. So it just shows you how much really that they must have went through and seen. And when you realise that nearly 300 little boats were destroyed here, we're sailing through in lovely weather and no attacks coming from anywhere, but when you actually hear and you see it, I can't help but think myself what he must have seen.
Yeah, scary stuff. OK, Doogie, for now, thanks very much indeed.
Yeah, it is amazing how many of that generation who did fight in the war and saw terrible things never spoke of it.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas now people that have it all over Instagram and showing off about how brave they were,
yeah.
Whereas they were just such a humble generation, just kept it to themselves.
Maybe that much awfulness is humbling in itself.
Maybe.
When you realise how fragile life is, and when you've been through it yourself and you've watched friends die around you, maybe that's what makes you sort of humble about it. It also makes you want to forget.
It's good that they're talking about it in older age, though, so we can learn some of the lessons. Incredible generation. And there they are, some of the original pictures from the time. This footage, it's remarkable footage that it was taken even then. These great men and women.
Yeah.
I don't know who those ladies were.
No, exactly.
But
there was a whole bunch of ladies. Maybe they were nurses or something like that.
Possibly.
I know some nurses stayed on the beaches to look after the men who couldn't be evacuated, and they were taken prisoners themselves. It took them a long time to be brought back.
Got to make sure stuff like this never happens again. Here, of course, it's happening elsewhere in the world, of course. We have to do what we can to stop that.
Leaning out at the train window with their empty mug and somebody coming along and giving them a cup of tea.
Scary.
It must have been very important at the time.
Oh dear.
Desperate
right.
for a cup of tea.
More with Doogie throughout the course of the day today, but in the meantime, let's have a look at the weather with Honor.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. This weekend, we could see some quite squally showers at times, a risk of thunderstorms, but it's not going to be a total washout. There'll be plenty of brighter spells and feeling particularly warm across the southeast as we head towards this afternoon. They're a very different story across Scotland, Northern Ireland, some quite blustery showers moving their way eastwards. This turning heavy at times, possibly thundery during the morning, but it's really into the afternoon across the northeast of England where we could potentially see some thunderstorms. But across central areas, parts of the southeast, that's where we'll see the best of the brightness, but it's likely to feel quite warm, quite muggy at times, highs reaching around 26 to 27 degrees Celsius. I'm afraid the unsettled weather is set to last across Scotland through much of the day. Still plenty of quite heavy, showery outbreaks skirting their way eastwards, turning quite blustery, particularly across exposed coasts. But across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, it should brighten up nicely. There is still the risk of the odd shower at times. But elsewhere across England and Wales, mostly dry and bright. That's away from Wales, perhaps the far west of Cornwall, a little cloudier here, potentially with some drizzle. But it's really across this southeast where it's going to remain mostly dry and warm, and then overnight once again there should be plenty of dry spells, some low cloud at times, but once again it's across the northwest, western parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland where we see a return of the cloud, some heavy outbreaks of rain by the time we reach the morning, and still quite windy here. And across the southeast, another mild and muggy night to come, many towns and cities not really dropping below 12 or 13 degrees. Now for Sunday, many areas seeing a drier and brighter day once again, mainly across the south, still across Scotland, Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, a return of the blustery showers, but brightening up later, a mix of sunny spells and showers, but it's likely to feel like a fresher day for all, but still highs reaching the low 20s, so it's still going to be warm and pleasant where you catch the sunshine.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Right, time is running out now on your chance to win that wonderful motorhome. That's what they call them, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was trying to think of the other word.
Camper van.
Camper van, yeah. It's not a camper van, it's far too posh. Yeah. It's worth 67 grand and you also get 5k tax-free cash. Here is how to take part.
It's the final week to see how you could be our biggest winner yet.
Driving away in this Elnag Baron 560 motorhome, courtesy of Marquis Leisure. It has plenty of room for your family of four, comes complete with kitchen, bathroom and all the space you'll need for life on the road. And the best news? You can drive it on your existing driving licence. Plus, we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. Don't delay. You can't win if you're not in the draw. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
This motorhome and £5,000 in cash really could be yours. Good luck.
Yes, best of luck to you on that one. Now, still to come, you know there is a huge problem with military accommodation in this country. It's been an absolute disgrace for a long time, and it still is for an awful lot of people. What's the government going to do about it? We'll find out in a moment.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as
and now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Nigel is back.
Good evening.
Unfiltered.
Are these proposals bold enough?
Uncompromising.
Will it bring growth?
Unmissable.
We as a country are brilliant.
Nigel Farage returns this Tuesday from 7 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
Oh, no, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We were talking earlier about Operation Dynamo.
Yes.
And the amazing little boats and everything of Dunkirk. Dee has been in touch. She says, my great-uncle was a soldier at Dunkirk. He was only 18 years old. He never spoke about it until he was watching a programme about it years ago. He said, we just lay on the beach pretending to be dead while German planes kept flying over, firing at us. He said the people in the little boats were extremely brave and rescued so many. He lost many good friends, all brave young men. It was all very sad.
It is very sad. Can you imagine lying there and just wondering if you're going to get shot from above?
Nothing you can do. They were literally sitting targets, weren't they?
Oh, doesn't bear thinking about. But we do need to think about it. Right, now the government is investing more than £1.5 billion to improve UK Armed Forces accommodation to help renew the contract that we have with those who serve.
It's a bid to improve the lives of thousands of British military personnel and their families.
Well, the Defence Secretary, John Healey, spoke on why this is so important.
We've got to serve them better, we owe them better, and we especially owe them and their families better homes. For too long, our forces have made extraordinary sacrifices to serve this country, and yet we've forced their families to live in substandard accommodation. That ends.
Well, we're joined now by the Afghanistan veteran, Trevor Coult. A very good morning, Trevor. I mean, it's an understatement to say that the accommodation is poor. It's absolutely appalling in some cases, isn't it?
First of all, Anne, Stephen, thank you for having me on your wonderful show. Yes, I've looked at this. Now, yesterday, your wonderful producer sent me a bit of an update of what this entailed. I have looked into it. I have got a lot of people that I ask questions to and make sure I get it right. 1.5 billion, though. Now, 1.5 billion is great. It sounds like a wonderful sum of money, but the government back in 2023 also invested 1.5 billion into this type of scenario. Now, if we break it down, 1.5 billion, you got to remember that the UK has 145 military sites. So what you're really saying is it's 10 million per site. Now, if you look at the fact that a lot of those sites say there's 200 family homes, and you break that down for £10 million per 200 family homes, it's not very much investment. Now, it's wonderful. I think John Heady, he's going in the right direction, but it's just a sticky plaster over a massive wound. Now, when I look at the investment into this, I find it shameful, because many years ago, I got in touch with the then veterans guy, Tobias Elwood, and I asked him if it was possible that we could basically utilise an old military camp to house homeless veterans, and there was none available because the government has sold off every single disused or misused military camp to investors that sit back and wait. Now, a lot of those camps were utilised during the pandemic, and the government doesn't have the funds to invest in empty military bases to help veterans or to help military, but it seems to have a bottomless check when it comes to housing people coming across Dover. So when you look at the fact that the government so far are spending tens of millions of pounds each week and each year in updating empty bases to house economic migrants, but they haven't got the money for military families. Now, I was once living in a military accommodation, and the problem you have here is the government goes for the contractor that comes in with the lowest bid. So you're not getting the top quality invested in military camps, because it's always the lowest person comes in and gets that contract. Now, for many, many a time, believe it or not, Anne, see when something's above head height and you have to reach up, it becomes a health and safety issue, which means that many, many times in military camps, we were told, if the light bulb needs change, you're not allowed to do it. It's above head height. It's a health and safety. So a contractor comes in and gets paid over £50. He gets a call-out fee, and he gets £50 to change your light bulb. So 1.5 billion over 145 bases, over 200 homes per base. It's very, very little, but it sounds amazing. So let's keep going in that direction.
Yeah. I mean, look, get your point. Of course, not everything needs updating. I mean, there is a lot of new accommodation on a lot of sites. I mean, I think of places like Bulford, where some of the accommodation is pretty good on camp. But as you say, there are questions within how those properties are managed, and the waste of money, and as you say, things like changing a light bulb. I mean, it's absolutely crackers.
Yeah. As I said, it's great that we're going in the right direction. It's fantastic. But this sounds crazy saying this, but I don't think there should be a budget placed on looking after the men and women that serve our country. I think they should just go around camp after camp. Now, this 1.5 billion, by the way, Stephen, is a 25-year plan in modernisation. So in 25 years' time, or should I say in 10 years' time, it's going to be updated again. So it's going to be again out of date. So let's not put budgets on the people that keep us safe. Let's have the same budget sort of scenario as we do for economic migrants. The government will find money. Let's just fix the camps. The people that are on the front line, let's just make sure that when they come back from battle, they can sit down in a house where it doesn't have damp. I mean, the door locks properly. I mean, there's no greener algae around the taps. Let's just make sure that those accommodations are looked after, and let's just keep this going. We don't need to put a budget on that, because budgets mean lowest quality, the first contractor, and if you've lived in accommodation there, it's not great. But you know what? It's a bit like, as you said, the guys come back from Dunkirk. Military personnel will always find a way to make something that looks and is like a gutter, and they'll shine it, and they'll make it look clean, and they'll make it work. But a lot of the time, the men and women are away abroad, and it's the spouses that are having to deal with this nonsense, and they never complain to their husbands and wives, because they just get up. Their husbands and wives have enough issues going to war and coming back. They don't want to hear about the fact there's damp, or the baby's now got a cold because we've got blue mold. So we just need to keep on top of it, Stephen, and make sure that we are looked after 24/7.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Absolutely,
look,
quite agree.
You're talking common sense, Trevor, which means very few people will listen. In power, because that's often the way, isn't it? Really good to see you, though. Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, one of our viewers has been in touch saying the military homes at a barracks near to me were refurbished just recently. They'd been rotten for years. Why the recent refurbishment? They're going to house refugees. Unbelievable.
I mean, that's where it stings, doesn't it? There are places in Kensington where, I mean, there are literally rats running up and down inside the walls that they could... I mean, it's horrific. It's absolutely horrific.
You see, you wouldn't be able to house immigrants or asylum seekers in those sort of conditions because the human rights lawyers would be after you. They would say they're not fit for purpose. But you put your army there.
I think we've got to reprioritise all of that. These are people who put their lives on the line for us. Or even if they don't, even if we're in a time of peace, they're prepared to put their lives on the line for us. Got to do it right.
Treat them badly.
I'm sure you've got a view on that.
Yeah.
Right, don't go anywhere, because we've got Aidan with all the sport. There's a big match tonight. He'll have all the build-up.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
Cass Review, which was last March, April, a very accomplished paediatrician, Baroness Cass, who effectively said, we've got to stop giving children who think they might be trans, rushing them into treatment, avoiding them having pills that can change their body. And now it seems the NHS is still treating nursery-age children. Nursery age. These are toddlers who believe they're transgender. Now, they're not giving them any drugs, but the mere idea, why are mum and dad even going along with it?
It's things like a boy that wants to wear dresses and play with dolls.
Let him.
It's things like a girl who wants to kick a football or maybe have her hair short. And the problem is, I think the parents are the ones behind this, obviously. You either say, this is normal, and children play around with gender roles as they have done since the beginning of time. You don't march them off to the doctor and get their heads looked at by a psychiatrist. And why are they doing it? Well, because they are reading that it's normal now, they're confused, they lack confidence as parents to say no.
Well, apparently, the Health Service had set a minimum age of 7 for children to be seen by specialist gender clinics. I think that's too young, frankly. 7,
unbelievable.
Far too young. Claiming anything else less was just too young. But that limit's now been removed after the proposal was put up to consultation. And you know why? Because the wretched trans lobby have lobbied and put pressure on the NHS. So you've now got 3-year-olds being talked to about their gender. For God's sake, what are we doing to our children?
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Right, Aidan's here with the sport, and we want to talk tennis first because it's all happening at the Roland Garros.
It is indeed, and I wouldn't say a major row, but well, in fact, you might say that it's that Ons Jabeur, former Grand Slam finalist at Wimbledon, certainly thinks so. She has accused the tournament director at the French Open, Amélie Mauresmo, of undermining women's tennis, and the reason is this: they have at the tournament. This is the same for all Grand Slam scheduling. They have. The main event of an evening would be one match, and that would be the one that garners all the television audiences and the crowd inside the actual grounds. Now, the issue here is that women have not been part of that schedule, that prime schedule, for 2 years now. There's not been a single match since the middle of the 2023 tournament where a woman has been, or 2 women have been taken top billing.
Oh.
And look, we'll hear from Amélie Mauresmo in a moment to get her side of things, but the gist of it is that I think they're concerned that with the women's game, the matches just aren't long enough to justify giving her that prime-time slot. But let's listen to what Amélie Mauresmo has to say right now.
It has never been
that the girls are not worthy to play at night. It's never been this, and I will not accept that you carry this message. That's really clear to me. What I'm saying is I'm talking, and we are talking because I'm not the only one to make the decisions. We are talking about potential match length. And in this perspective, it is hard. It is hard to say that the 2 sets can go really fast. When the 3 sets, you have 3 sets minimum.
That's Amélie Mauresmo, the tournament director, former Wimbledon champion, of course. I think it's far-fetched to say that she is undermining women's tennis. Ons Jabeur posted that on social media yesterday. She was eliminated from the tournament earlier in the week. Now, I do think it comes down to match length. I think it's ridiculous, utterly ridiculous, that in the Grand Slams, women do not play best of 5 sets. The idea that these elite athletes are not capable of lasting that long, it would create a different kind of game. It would test...
What do the women players think about that?
They've never been particularly vocal about it, but I mean, I guess scheduling-wise, as an athlete, you're probably in this day and age with sports science and everything, and the proof we've seen around playing less makes you better. They may opt for a smaller game, a shorter game, but that doesn't mean that every tournament around the world would require them to play that amount of time. I mean, the men don't. I mean, most ATP events are best of 3 at men's level as well. So. But I just think I can understand why when people are paying big money to get into these tournaments on the day, and you've got TV schedulers, TV companies demanding a certain period of time, they can't have 2-set matches, which is what commonly happens in the women's game.
It happens a lot.
It has.
It's over and done with in 2 sets.
Within 40 minutes or so. They've got an issue tonight because Novak Djokovic is in action. So again, the women have looked at it and said, again, top billing given to a bloke. For those who don't know the geography of southwestern Paris, Roland Garros is right next to the Parc des Princes where Paris Saint-Germain play. So they're worried that they won't get the numbers, the footfall tonight, because PSG have got this massive game, the Champions League final tonight as well.
Well, they have, yeah.
And so maybe the answer is to factor in maybe 2 matches in the evening instead of just 1. I don't know, it needs looking at next year, but I think, in defence of Amélie Mauresmo, I do think it's a bit of a stretch to say that she's undermining women's tennis. I don't see why she'd do that.
No, let's have a look at PSG then, should we? Because they're up against Inter Milan, aren't they, in this final?
In Munich, at 8 o'clock tonight. I just feel like it's their time, Stephen. I really do. They've never won it before in their lives. They had all those Galacticos recently, didn't they? Neymar, Messi, Mbappe. They didn't deliver a single pot outside of France. So they didn't deliver at all. The Galacticos, as they call them, they tried to copy the Real Madrid model. They've now got some more sort of base talents there, hugely highly skilled players, but you know what? They're slayers of the Premier League sides. They've beaten, this season alone, they've beaten Manchester City, Arsenal over 2 legs, Liverpool over 2 legs, Aston Villa over 2 legs. Our teams just cannot beat them. And Inter Milan, huge pedigree, 3 times winners themselves, beat Barcelona in the semi-final. I just think, though, that the edge is with PSG tonight, and that would lift them to a stratosphere that they've never been before.
Well, and this is the first time they've ever played against each other.
It is. I mean, someone told me that this morning. I find that staggering because they've been dining at the top table of European football for decades now, and they've never actually met each other in a competitive game. I find it absolutely...
Yeah,
if you'd said that to me, I'd have said, even with my knowledge, I'd have said that they've met before 10 times, but they haven't, not once.
Oh, well, there you go. Right, Aidan, we've got to leave it there. We'll see you a little bit later on. Thank you.
Still to come, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Heatwave conditions set to continue across parts of Europe where 40 degrees Celsius is possible, this turning into a thundery breakdown elsewhere. Now, the heatwave conditions will continue across parts of Portugal, Spain and also Morocco, but it's likely we'll see the peak of heat through today. But this turning into thundery showers, particularly across France and Germany, but elsewhere across Rome, the Adriatic coastline and across Greece, it should be mostly dry, settled, still feeling warm in the sunshine, and temperatures into next week still remaining in the mid-20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Right, we're going through the papers, 7:47 with Kevin Schofield and Susie Stride. Kevin, Elon Musk, he said goodbye to the White House. He's been presented with a golden key to the White House.
Yeah.
Wonder if it works.
Well,
he had a black eye.
Yeah, there's always something strange going on where Elon Musk is concerned, and he rocked up to the Oval Office yesterday for a sort of press conference presentation thing with Donald Trump, because as we know, his time there has come to an end after 130 days. So he was presented with this gold key, but all anyone could talk about was the fact he's standing there. I must note, with not wearing a suit.
No.
Had I go at Zelensky, you know, and a baseball cap. I mean, that to me is very disrespectful. But anyway, that's by the by. But he's also got a black eye.
Yes, I know.
Which is very odd.
And the reason? Because he was asked about it.
He was asked about it, and he said that it was he was horsing around with his 5-year-old son, one of his 12 kids. This one's called X. And he said, "Go ahead, punch me in the face," and he did.
Yeah.
Why would you say that to a child?
No idea. The whole thing, it just doesn't make any sense.
Is his son called Lil X or X?
No, well, it's called...
but
Lord.
That is short for something, but it's a weird name.
Random, isn't it?
But the other interesting thing is it comes amid reports about his drug use. So this story that was in the New York
that's right.
Times,
Apparently, yes, he was taking drugs whilst he was in the administration.
Yes, certainly on the campaign trail, allegedly. And it's not been denied either. And, you know, so there's all these stories swirling around about his private life, and then he turns up at the Oval Office with a shiner.
Yeah.
It's all a bit odd.
A shiner. Oh, you're showing your age. You know, his son is called, it's pronounced X-A12.
I mean, that's just so strange, isn't it?
It's very
you
strange.
just kind of feel sorry for the children if they've got all these random names.
Well, there's others have got weird names as well. Unsurprisingly, there's no Dave or John Alice.
No.
But it is bad, though, isn't it, that they had a big go at Zelensky for not dressing up in the Oval Office and not showing respect, and then he turns up in a baseball cap and a T-shirt.
And he normally has a T-shirt. His T-shirt often says IT guy on it.
Yeah.
This one says, like, Doge Father or something.
The Doge Father, like the Godfather. There's also something about Sarah Man his age wearing T-shirts like that, I think.
Bit hypocritical, though, bit hypocritical.
Definitely, definitely.
What do you think? There's a cut-off age at which you stop wearing T-shirts?
No, it's T-shirts with, like, writing on them.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I had this discussion with my wife the other day because I still... So I'll see a T-shirt online, I say to my wife, what do you think? She went, no. She says, you're too old to be wearing T-shirts with writing on them.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
No way.
That's interesting. I've never thought of it having, like, an age restriction.
No,
here you go, though. His children are called Nevada, Vivian, Griffin, Kai, Saxon, Damien, X-Ash A12...
What the heck?
Exa, Strider, Azure, Techno, Arcadia, Selden Lycurgus and Romulus.
Oh, my days. I mean, it's like out of a Star Wars movie, isn't it? It's like these kind of names.
Techno.
Yeah.
Techno
Well, Strider sounds like my surname, Stride. Don't mind that one, that's OK.
Well, you could have Strider Stride.
Strider Stride.
I mean, that'd be... No, well, you know what these very rich people are like.
They can do what they want.
They do what they want.
But it's the kids who've got to carry that name around for the rest of their life.
Yeah, and they often change their name when they get to a certain age, don't they? Like Zowie Bowie.
Yeah.
Zowie Bowie.
And Satchel.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable.
What a weird name.
Was
Woody Allen's son, who's now... I can't remember what he's called now, but he's very famous in his own right, isn't he? Yeah.
How many different partners does he have for that many children?
Oh, quite a lot.
So, well, there's a suspicion that there's more than 12. That's the 12 that we know about.
Yeah, because he wants to populate Mars or something, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's
with
very
all
much
his own children.
His thing. Yeah, I don't think he's with any of the mothers.
No.
I think it's all very
strange. No, Satchel Allen, Woody Allen's son, is Ronan Farrow, who you probably know.
Oh, yeah.
The one who actually looks incredibly like Frank Sinatra.
He does, that's right. It's always been denied.
She said it was a possibility.
The blue eyes.
That Frank Sinatra could be his father.
Yeah.
But he looks exactly like Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, he does.
So, I mean,
he's a good-looking
clearly is. Should we talk about the Express and this one area? It's in Wales, isn't it, in Conway? Where they have 11 recycling bins. Or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's madness. I was just saying, I mean, in our area, we just have 3. You know, one for your rubbish, one for your recycling and one for your food waste. And I just think this must get so complicated and very tedious for people. However, the more bins that you have, supposedly it does increase your likelihood to recycle. So there's evidence to show that actually, you know, there's a positive reason why you would have so many.
So each household is going to have 11 bins?
Well, in this one particular area, each household has 11 bins.
Where do you put them?
Well, I know. It's balmy.
Well, that's
it's balmy.
But it's like, it's all the what goes in them. Paper and card in one, glass in another, plastic and cans, textiles, absorbent hygiene products, coffee pot. I mean...
Why don't you need a separate bin for coffee pods?
I mean, it's just madness.
They are a problem, aren't they? They're very difficult to recycle.
But the government are saying they want to simplify this. So the government are saying, actually, they want it to be that across the country it's far more simplified. But, yeah, I mean, I just think it seems madness. It just probably must become so confusing.
In an ordinary street of terraced houses, for instance, if every household has got 11 bins, where on earth are they going to put them?
No, exactly.
They must have huge gardens.
I know.
Or just their gardens just full of bin.
Yeah.
No?
I mean, obviously, it wouldn't work in London, where people have got very little space. You couldn't have, like, 11 bins, could you, up on the street? But the positive thing is the government wants to simplify it, and I think that's good, because it's probably, you know, be good news for everyone.
I'm not convinced that, actually, the stuff you put out for recycling gets recycled anyway.
Well, there is always that as well.
This is the issue.
Yeah. You see stories about it floating out in the middle of the Atlantic.
Yeah, but also you've gone to all the trouble to put things in different bins, and then you see the guys just chuck it all in one.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Lorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, right, you two, we're out of time. See you later. Thank you very much indeed. Here's the weather.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. This weekend, we could see some quite squally showers at times, a risk of thunderstorms, but it's not going to be a total washout. There'll be plenty of brighter spells and feeling particularly warm across the southeast as we head towards this afternoon. There were very different story across Scotland, Northern Ireland, some quite blustery showers moving their way eastwards. This turning heavy at times, possibly thundery during the morning, but it's really into the afternoon across the northeast of England where we could potentially see some thunderstorms. But across central areas, parts of the southeast, that's where we'll see the best of the brightness, but it's likely to feel quite warm, quite muggy at times, highs reaching around 26 to 27 degrees Celsius. I'm afraid the unsettled weather is set to last across Scotland through much of the day. Still plenty of quite heavy, showery outbreaks skirting their way eastwards, turning quite blustery, particularly across exposed coasts. But across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, it should brighten up nicely. There is still the risk of the odd shower at times. But elsewhere across England and Wales, mostly dry and bright. That's away from Wales, perhaps the far west of Cornwall. A little cloudier here, potentially with some drizzle. But it's really across this southeast where it's going to remain mostly dry and warm, and then overnight once again there should be plenty of dry spells, some low cloud at times, but once again it's across the northwest, western parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland where we see a return of the cloud, some heavy outbreaks of rain by the time we reach the morning, and still quite windy here. And across the southeast, another mild and muggy night to come, many towns and cities not really dropping below 12 or 13 degrees. Now for Sunday, many areas seeing a drier and brighter day once again, mainly across the south, still across Scotland, Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, a return of the blustery showers, but brightening up later, a mix of sunny spells and showers, but it's likely to feel like a fresher day for all, but still highs reaching the low 20s, so it's still going to be warm and pleasant where you catch the sunshine.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you could be our biggest winner yet, touring in this stylish Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. This brand new 2025 model comes complete with kitchen and bathroom areas and enough space to comfortably sleep a family of 4. We'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to add a few of your favourite things. Don't miss out as lines close on the 6th of June. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Britain's Newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
We have a very special guest, Rubens, who is the veterans mascot. He represents animals who fought and fallen in the war, and he's here with his owners, Mark and Debbie Perkins, and I've just given him a couple of treats. He's a special boy, isn't he?
Oh, thank you. Yes, he is. We're very proud of him. Yes.
What kind of dog is he?
So he is a white German Shepherd. He is. They're very rare. They are quite rare.
And he's 12 years old, I can't believe it.
Next month's 12
years old.
You're both invited to his birthday party if you'd like to come.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, this dog is a bit of sport, isn't he?
Well, yeah. He had an easy paper round.
Yeah. Yeah, he is.
Now, he sleeps on your bed.
He does, yes.
Yeah.
Sleeps between us, actually.
Must be a big bed, because he's a big lad.
He is. Well, we've had to go Super King.
Picture here, then, Debbie. Is that
was with the Chelsea pensioners. No, that was yesterday. These are people that he met.
This is all yesterday?
Some of these are yesterday, He was there with the Chelsea pensioners. He was on the Mall, up and down yesterday.
And is he very good with the veterans?
Oh, he loves them. So I go into care homes and he goes to care homes to meet veterans and things like that.
What a lovely thing.
His favourite was an old Land Army girl, but she's not here anymore, is she? No, she's not here. I think he does understand more than we think. But these veteran weekends are brilliant, and the children get a chance to reenact and to see what goes on, and they put 40 shows on, and then on the Sunday there's always a massive church service, and he goes and sits at the church. He goes to church services. He's quite.
It's quite surreal, really, because on these reenactments there's German paratroopers, there's British soldiers. when you go for a drink or a bite, it's a real mishmash of people.
Yeah. GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning. Pressure piles on the Prime Minister. Sir Keir Starmer has faced calls to sack his Attorney General for his comments around Nazism and leaving the ECHR.
He was Lord Hermer, or is Lord Hermer, but he was forced to apologise yesterday, with Conservative and Reform MPs saying that's not good enough, he should be removed from the job.
Yes, Kemi Badenoch is leading those calls. The Prime Minister, though, says, which is the poison chalice words, he has full confidence in his Lord Chief.
President Trump holds a press conference in the Oval Office with Elon Musk, marking the end of the tech billionaire's White House contract.
Around 20 little ships will return to Ramsgate today, marking the 85th anniversary of Operation Dynamo.
85 years on from Dunkirk, the little ships that changed the face of the war and could possibly argued changed the shape of Europe are now queuing up in the locks to get out to sea to make that historical crossing. We'll have more throughout the day.
One more day until disposable vapes are banned. We're finding out if it's going to actually make any difference.
There's a trend at the moment, partly down to those drugs that are available now, to be skinny, really skinny. Could it actually be really bad for you if you're over 60? We're going to debate if skinny culture is ever a healthy choice.
And it's the final weekend of the sunniest spring on record, with temperatures apparently going to go as high as 27 degrees this weekend.
Manchester United boss Ruben Amorim is confident his captain Bruno Fernandes won't be swayed by the £130 million offer on the table in Saudi. We'll look ahead also to tonight's Champions League final in Munich, and French Open tournament director Amélie Mauresmo is accused of undermining women's tennis.
Hello there, good morning. A mixed bag of weather today, some heavy showers, a risk of thunderstorms, but also plenty of warm sunshine. Stay tuned and I'll have all the details.
It's just gone 8 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Ann Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast.
I was sorry to hear last night, we're not covering it today actually, though perhaps we should pop it in somewhere. You've got to be of a certain age, but Hot Lips Houlihan has died. Loretta Swit, who played Hot Lips Houlihan
in the TV
MASH.
series, didn't she?
Yeah, MASH. The 407-7th. We used to watch it religiously.
Me too, absolutely.
MASH, you say?
MASH.
Yeah, that's the sound. I had the soundtrack on my phone.
Yes.
Did you?
Yeah.
It was such a great show about the
And she was
Vietnam
such
War.
a character.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was... and, of course, Alan Alda's still about. He's still acting and things, but he must be... She was 87, but just one of the biggest stars at the time, and it was an incredible role, incredible comedy, actually, but also touching on some of the horrors and things of around Vietnam.
It was a brilliant movie.
Very
and
clever.
Then a brilliant series.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic.
But anyway, so she has passed away at the age of 87. So she's a good age, but nevertheless, I'm sorry to see Loretta Swit go.
Manning Street Preachers did a cover of the theme tune, actually.
Did they?
Yeah, they did, yeah. It got into the charts maybe 30 years ago, something like that.
I mean, it's quite a sad tune, really.
Yes, it is. Suicide is painless.
Suicide is... Oh, yes, suicide is painless, yeah.
But that was underlined the sort of whole dark humour of the thing.
Yeah. But anyway, there you go. Do you know it was on for 11 years, 1972 to 1983, which is remarkable.
I bet it's always on somewhere on television.
Oh, yeah, I hope so. I hope so. It's a great show. It's a great show. should we have a look at the Attorney-General, Lord Hermer, who's caused a stir, as we told you yesterday, actually. We compared calls to leave the ECHR to the rise of Nazi Germany in the 1930s.
He was speaking at the annual security lecture at the Royal United Services Institute, and he claimed that people who are calling for the UK to quit international agreements sort of echo similar demands that were made by legal experts in the 1930s in Germany. And we all know what happened next.
Well, Number 10 has told GB News Sir Keir Starmer has full confidence in his Attorney-General.
With us now to discuss this, Deputy Editor for Spiked, Fraser Myers. It was a very poor choice of words.
Yes, he said that it was a clumsy choice of words, but I don't buy that, because if you look at his speech, he makes the comparison several times, not only makes a comparison with the Nazis, but also with Putin. So I think he possibly has been told that you should regret your choice of words from the top. So what he did, actually, he didn't directly compare those who want to leave the ECHR to Hitler, but he compared them to the Nazi jurist Carl Schmitt. And in academic circles, if you want to compare someone to Hitler without directly comparing them to Hitler, you raise this name of Carl Schmitt, who is this jurist who basically said that actually what matters is raw power, state sovereign power, rather than international legal obligation.
So the inference is what we heard before, is that if you're worried about immigration, or if you're and you think that the way to do it is to leave the ECHR, then your thinking is very, very right-wing.
Yeah, I mean, the inference obviously falls down because what people are complaining about is the over-application of essentially human rights laws in a way that creates complete absurdities around immigration. So it means, this is why when you hear all these ridiculous stories, every week there is a new story of a migrant who can't be deported, who's committed terrible crimes because of some bizarre interpretation of Britain's human rights obligations. Now, that is entirely different from a Nazi jurist saying it's fine to invade other countries, for instance. There's just no comparison between those two things. I think...
No, but the problem... I tell you what this does do, though, and this is the problem Keir Starmer can't get away from, is because there is that inference that people who then believe that are somehow, in some way, even if very weakly, thinking along the lines of Nazism, right? I mean, how damaging can that be? How out of touch with what a lot of the people in the UK are actually saying and feeling?
Well, precisely, and I think, there are calls to sack Lord Hermer coming from the opposition benches. I think for Keir Starmer's own good, he should make that move, not just because of this outburst. I think Lord Hermer has proved himself time and time again. We should not be talking about the Attorney-General's name, first of all. If the Attorney-General's in the news, something has gone very badly wrong. But it's not just this. He is the embodiment of the kind of sort of woke international lawyer type figure that actually is rubbing people up the wrong way on all kinds of issues. He is kind of responsible for giving the legal green light to the Chagos deal, which everyone recognises as a disaster. Might make legal sense, but makes zero political sense or common sense. There is also, he's been accused internally, lots of people are frustrated with him because he is blocking a lot of policies, suggesting that they might be, they might run into trouble in the courts. He doesn't want to have any whiff of the courts getting involved in or running judicial reviews of Labour policies. And that actually is proving a bit of a drag on Labour's projects and them implementing their manifesto projects. So there's frustration within, but the problem is he's Starmer's friend. He was appointed at the last minute. He was appointed after the election, one of the few people in the shadow cabinet. He replaced Emily Thornberry, a much better known person for the role of Attorney-General. He's a good friend of Starmer, so it looks like he will stay.
As one of our viewers has pointed out, clumsy is not a good look for the highest legal representative in the land.
Well, quite. And also, he was speaking, again, at it was a prepared script. This is a lecture. This was not him speaking off the cuff at a drinks event. He wasn't caught on a hot mic. These were probably words also... Normally, when a minister gives a speech, it has to be cleared by Number 10 Downing Street. So did Number 10 not realise that these words were clumsy until they were picked up by the papers? It seems just very, very... This doesn't reflect well on anyone.
But what is going on at the moment? Because what a week it's been. Because, I mean, all this hoo-ha, which probably isn't going to end well for Lord Hermer, But just a couple of days after Keir Starmer decided he had to do an emergency press conference to tackle the threat of reform.
Well, precisely. You know, he's doing this press conference to say, you know, we're the party that's going to deliver on your priorities. It comes a week after he gave his speech on migration that said, we're going to take illegal migration seriously, we're going to take mass migration seriously, we're going to bring the numbers down. Don't listen to Farage, trust us, we can get the job done. And then to basically insinuate that those voters who are wavering, those voters who are either switching from Labour to Reform are somehow tainted by, you know, Nazi-like views, because obviously leaving the ECHR is a key reform pledge. It's just a disaster for them. It's just they obviously they want to play the electoral game. They need to win back those voters, but really they look down their noses at those voters. And I think Herman's revealed that. Well, that's the million-dollar question, because you think they do seem to have one good advisor in number 10, Morgan McSweeney, who seems to have some level of, you know, he seems to be somewhat in touch with public sentiment, but it seems as if everyone else in the party is running off in a different direction constantly.
I mean, what this highlights is the fact, I mean, they've got a massive majority, they've got a super majority in the House of Commons, but we know turnout was low, we know, you know, it was all the figures were very low in terms of the votes they got in the election. And it just goes, it's the House of Cards, isn't it? Because they're not reflecting on what the majority of people in this country actually think. So to come the next election, would be toast.
Exactly. I mean, we know that they won by default, really. They won the last election because the Conservative Party lost 7 million votes.
Yeah, just like that.
And Keir Starmer, you know, Labour hardly improved their position, actually, on the 2019 election, which was a historic loss. So there has always been, I think they have always understood and that the majority was, you know, a bit of a sandcastle majority. But it seems as if they are not prepared to... They could use their time in government to make some steps that would make them popular, that would bring people round, that would make people think, well, we'll give you another term. They seem to be completely at sea and incapable of doing that.
Actually, Gareth, another one of our viewers, points out it wasn't clumsy, it was a smear on those of us who think that leaving the ECHR and other things would be a good move. So it's an insult to an awful lot of people.
I think that's exactly right, and I think that's an expression of his beliefs. So there is this, in those circles, there is this narrative, I think it's a slightly false narrative, that because the Convention on Human Rights came about after the Second World War, that therefore, and because it was endorsed by Winston Churchill, that therefore any deviation from that means you're going back towards the Third Reich. I mean, it's just nonsense. I mean, one of the historical aspects that's often ignored is that many people on the left actually opposed the creation of the European Convention on Human Rights. The Labour government, it was the Conservatives that brought us in, the Attlee Labour government were deeply opposed to it because they understood that it was a check on democracy, that it was a threat to democracy, and that it was brought about because elites feared mass democracy, believing it would take us to fascism or communism. Now, that left-wing critique has disappeared, and instead you have the opposite, where you have someone like Lord Hermer that says anyone who deviates from this institution, this actually what was once a conservative institution, is a fascist. It's completely bizarre, completely ahistorical, and an insult, as you say, to the many.
So will he go? Do you think?
He should go, but I think that I think Starmer is sufficiently clueless to keep him on.
OK. Well, we shall see. Fraser, thank you. See you a little bit later on. Well, a spokesman for the Attorney-General told GB News he gave a speech defending international law which underpins our security, protects against threats from aggressive states like Russia and helps tackle organised immigration crime. He rejects the characterisation of his speech by the Conservatives. He acknowledges, though, that his choice of words was clumsy and regrets having used this reference.
Will that statement be enough to save him, I wonder?
We shall see.
Now, around 20 little ships will be returning to Ramsgate today.
The flotilla set off from the Royal Harbour for Dunkirk on May the 21st as part of events marking the 85th anniversary of Operation Dynamo, where more than 338,000 Allied troops were safely evacuated to England during the Second World War.
And GB News reporter Dougie Beattie joins us now. And and on a lovely day on a beautiful ship. Morning.
Good morning, Anne. Good morning, Stephen. Yes, this is a very historic occasion here because, of course, these 933 little ships, that's how many actually went out. They evacuated 388,000 troops in total. Only 697 returned. And the British forces actually had to leave behind 2,500 guns, 68,000 vehicles, 455 tanks, 20,000 motorcycles, 76,000 tons of munitions and 68,000 troops. Now you can imagine how Winston Churchill described that. He described that as the darkest hour, but it would have been a lot worse had these little ships not been able to get close into shore. The biggest beach in Europe is Dunkirk, and because it was so shallow, bigger ships couldn't get in, so these little ships were tasked, and what you're looking at now is the actual ships, and they're all wooden, and they cost a lot of money to maintain. We're actually sitting in the lock here, and we're going to drop about 6 feet to get out to sea, so some of them have gathered in here, and then we're going to do that across the ocean. And I spoke to Nick Chapman, and he told us just what was involved. Nick, tell us a little bit about this craft that you crew here.
I crew on the wonderful Hilfrenor, a 1935 gentleman's launch from the Thames, and I've been crewing with her for about 4 years. Very fortunate.
It is a gentleman's launch, and it was obviously taken by the government at the time to get people off Dunkirk. What sort of value would have been on this in the 30s?
Actually, to be honest, I don't know. But clearly this was a very elite boat, very beautiful boat with beautiful lines. You see a canoe stern there. Very much a boat for the river, really not one to be crossing the channel. But it's a pleasure boat for the Thames. And built up in Walton in 1935 on Thames.
And how does she handle in the open sea?
Remarkably well. She's a good boat. She's a more than 95-year-old lady, but treat her carefully, and she handles very well, holds her line very well, and I think is very elegant.
Well, there you could see, 95-year-old boat, and it is here in Dunkirk. Now, of course, these hulls on these boats were displacement hulls, so you can't really go very hard on them. It doesn't matter what size engine you have, because they have a hull speed. And of course, the harder you go, what happens is the water in front of it becomes basically a brick wall. So no matter how fast these boats would have wanted to get out of Dunkirk, they were on a hull speed, and most of them were used actually to go to the shore and then to some of the Royal Navy ships to bring those soldiers off the beaches. And the heartbreaking part for this, of course, is really how many of these captains of these boats at this time had to say no to soldiers that were trying to get off those beaches as they were attacked by the Luftwaffe. It must have been heartbreaking for them, and only today here in Dunkirk do you get a real feel of that.
OK. Doogie, for now, thank you very much indeed.
He does love his history, doesn't he?
That's right, though. I mean, the idea that having to say no when you're full, couldn't manage any more. Ugh. It's just horrific what these people went through.
Yep. It looks like a lovely day there, though, doesn't it? A nice day to be out on the sea. Shall we find out what the weather has in store for the rest of us?
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. This weekend, we could see some quite squally showers at times, a risk of thunderstorms, but it's not going to be a total washout. There'll be plenty of brighter spells and feeling particularly warm across the southeast as we head towards this afternoon. There were a very different story across Scotland, Northern Ireland, some quite blustery showers moving their way eastwards. This turning heavy at times, possibly thundery during the morning, but it's really into the afternoon across the northeast of England where we could potentially see some thunderstorms. But across central areas, parts of the southeast, that's where we'll see the best of the brightness, but it's likely to feel quite warm, quite muggy at times, highs reaching around 26 to 27 degrees Celsius. I'm afraid the unsettled weather is set to last across Scotland through much of the day. Still plenty of quite heavy, showery outbreaks skirting their way eastwards, turning quite blustery, particularly across exposed coasts. But across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, it should brighten up nicely. There is still the risk of the odd shower at times. But elsewhere across England and Wales, mostly dry and bright. That's away from Wales, perhaps the far west of Cornwall, a little cloudier here, potentially with some drizzle. But it's really across this southeast where it's going to remain mostly dry and warm. And then overnight, once again, there should be plenty of dry spells, some low cloud at times. But once again, it's across the northwest, western parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, where we see a return of the cloud, some heavy outbreaks of rain by the time we reach the morning, and still quite windy here. And across the southeast, another mild and muggy night to come. Many towns and cities not really dropping below 12 or 13 degrees. Now for Sunday, many areas seeing a drier and brighter day once again, mainly across the south, still across Scotland, Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, a return of the blustery showers, but brightening up later, a mix of sunny spells and showers, but it's likely to feel like a fresher day for all, but still highs reaching the low 20s, so it's still going to be warm and pleasant where you catch the sunshine.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now, the clock is ticking if you want to get your hands on an incredible 4-berth motorhome worth more than £67,000. If you want to take part, here's how.
It's the final week to see how you could be our biggest winner yet.
Driving away in this Elnag Baron 560 motorhome, courtesy of Marquis Leisure. It has plenty of room for your family of 4. Comes complete with kitchen, bathroom and all the space you'll need for life on the road. And the best news? You can drive it on your existing driving licence. Plus, we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. Don't delay. You can't win if you're not in the draw. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
This motorhome and £5,000 in cash really could be yours. Good luck.
Still to come, we're going to be talking about being too skinny, because there's a sort of, it's becoming trendy again, isn't it? Probably because of those weight loss jabs that some people are using despite the fact they're already skinny. And it obviously is not a healthy thing to be. But is skinny culture better than obesity culture? Or frankly, somewhere it should be in between, shouldn't it? We'll be debating that next.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
Practice Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Nigel is back.
Good evening.
Unfiltered.
Are these proposals bold enough?
Uncompromising.
Will it bring growth?
Unmissable.
We as a country are brilliant.
Nigel Farage returns this Tuesday from 7 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's 8:25 now. In case you hadn't noticed, skinny is back in fashion. Both in the jeans. But mind you, skinny jeans aren't really in fashion anymore.
No, they're
I've got
not.
to be honest, it's the baggy stuff now. It's like the 1980s all over again. But anyway, it's about your physique, actually.
Yeah. It's the lollipop look, isn't it, where your head is
a bit too big.
Your head's big and the rest of you is just skinny, skinny, skinny. Research has revealed that frail patients stay an average of 3 days longer in hospital, and they're 3 times more likely to die in the first year after surgery. That's if they're skinny.
Yeah, so we're asking, is skinny culture ever truly healthy? I mean, it's just about going overboard, isn't it? Let's talk to actor and body positivity influencer George Keywood and the commentator Nicola McLean. George, what do you think?
I mean, I think the skinny culture has created an unrealistic beauty standards that can be very harmful, and especially when it promotes the idea that thinness equals health or worth. You know, I think what's healthy or attractive can really vary between person. Like, for instance, my wife finds me attractive. I'm a bigger guy, and, you know, that's what she finds attractive. So, yeah, I think we just need more representation of all body types in the media, and not just this skinny ideal that, you know, this is healthy, because necessarily there's people that are skinny that are unhealthy. You know, there are people that are big like myself that are healthy. You know, I mean, for me in particular, I was pre-diabetic before I took Monjaro, and now that's gone now, so I've completely reversed that. So yeah, I mean, that's why I did it. So it just shows that you can be big, you can be healthy, but at the same time I feel like there's a lot of pressure on women in particular on the way that they look and the way that they need to look, you know, and I think this is a big issue.
On the other hand, Nicola, I mean, you can see it in the newspapers every day, on the television when there's an awards ceremony in Hollywood or something like that, that some women who don't need to lose any more weight are now taking the Ozempic-style injections and are becoming super skinny. And it's a very worrying look, and it certainly can't be good for them, can it?
No, and you know, I'm a former anorexic and I still struggle with bulimia. And I think that even the way you guys are speaking about it, talking about it being fashionable, I think we need to stop talking about weight as fashion. I think we need to stop talking about bodies as if it's, you know, trends. We need to start being realistic about how what we put in our bodies, and the best thing to be healthy. And being this skinny, you know, we've just got Ariana Grande on the screen there. That is not, I don't care. I'm willing to say that is not healthy. That is really not. She is far, far too thin. After my second child, I weighed under 6 stone. I thought I looked amazing. I was near death. You know, I just think that we need to start being really realistic about how we should look. We shouldn't be weighing the same as a 6-year-old child. We just shouldn't.
I mean, with all of this, though, it's finding that centre ground, isn't it? And we've got to be careful. You know, we don't want to shame anyone for being too big. We also don't want to shame anyone for being too thin.
No, I think we need to also look at mental health. I think people that are obese have the same mental health issues as people that are too skinny. Like, I think that the NHS, you talk about people staying in hospital for 3 days longer if they're too skinny, but I think that not enough is done for either. I don't think enough's done for people that overeat or people that undereat. You know, I went to the doctors when I was under 6 stone because I desperately needed help, and my GP said my BMI was fine, so I was offered no help whatsoever. I had to do it all on my own. I'm so passionate about the fact that we are not helping anyone with eating disorders, whether your eating disorder is eating too much or eating too less.
Yeah, I mean, George, we have a very strange relationship with food, some of us, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, look, you know, it's difficult to say. I mean, I don't have mental health or any mental health issues, and that's not the reason that I'm big. The reason I'm big is because I've been lazy, okay, and I've, you know, eaten when I shouldn't have eaten, and that's me being completely honest with you. You know, you get carried away sometimes, and through coronavirus, it was a comfort for me. You know, I was sitting at home making good money from home, living a good life, and I just kept eating and eating and eating. And I didn't see the issue until the issue hit me in the face when I got pre-diabetes. You know, so
George,
yeah.
I would say to you, and I understand, and your honesty is brilliant, but then I would say to you, if you're not realising that sitting at home, eating and getting too big, you look great, by the way, I'm not saying, but if that's what you're saying, for me, I think that is a problem. If we're not realising that we're sitting at home, eating, getting too big and then getting diabetes, that to me is a problem, and you're not loving yourself enough to work that out. So
yeah,
that is a problem, right?
For me personally, it's because of coronavirus. We were forced to stay home. So, you know, that was the issue. But I mean, ultimately, I get what you're saying. I understand that you're saying that a lot of people maybe feel down in their self, and that would make them want to eat more. Or in other circumstances, people would want to eat less. You know, I mean, it can be a mental health aspect to this for sure. And it probably most definitely is in some areas of this, in some certain cases. But I think for me particularly, I never felt bad about myself. I never felt bad about what I looked like or how how I was. I was just, you know, I was just in the moment, and you forget sometimes when you're in the moment what you're doing to yourself, and you don't think about the effects of what that's going to cause in the future. But obviously I had a wake-up call from the pre-diabetes, which made me think, actually, this is not the right road that I want to be going down. I need to change this. And I made those changes, and I've now lost 32 kilos on Mounjaro in the past 7 months. So
that's phenomenal.
I mean, you know, it was a devastating point, to the point where I show you, actually, that's what my feet used to be like. So stretchy that they would, you know, bulk out and cause that to happen to my sandals. So you can see there, it's, you know, massive. And, you know, I could only wear these at one point. This is all that I would wear because I couldn't even fit into shoes. My feet were so massive, I genuinely couldn't fit into shoes. So it just shows you, you know, you don't realise until it gets to a really dire point. And it is a shame that it gets to that point. And I think mental health needs to be looked at to avoid getting to that point, definitely. You know.
OK, George and Nicola, thank you both very much indeed. I mean, I think it makes the point very well, actually, that being too big can be unhealthy, and being too skinny can be unhealthy. And it's just about finding what you can in between. But also, I do think it's important not to shame people either which way, because some people are big because it's just the way they are built, and it's a lot of it is genetic. Some people are very skinny because it's just the way they're built.
But what I don't particularly like is the women on the catwalk at the moment, or on the red carpet going to events, who never needed to lose as much weight as they clearly have now.
Yes.
They're looking really gaunt, and it's not a great look.
No, gaunt is not, and it isn't going to be healthy. So if you don't, you know, if it's not the way you are naturally, you shouldn't try and achieve it.
And of course, they are what's the word? They're influencing the rest of us, that this is the way you must look. And that's not good, really.
No, but you get a lot of that. I mean, you get a lot of that for men.
Isn't it?
I mean, the pressure I have to maintain my six-pack is immense.
It tough, is it?
It's really hard keeping those 6 or 8
but, you know, we
packs
appreciate
going.
that you go through that hell.
Yeah, if
we
only.
appreciate it.
If only. There you go. Nothing wrong with the 1 pack. That's what I've always said. Still to come.
Flat pack.
Flat pack would be good. Aidan's here with all the sport. That's next.
no matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
You also represented Cerys Vaughan, who's the 18-year-old young woman who was banned by the FA from playing football for pointing out that there was a man, a biological male, on the opposite team. There's been a successful finding, and that, although actually it doesn't seem to be that it was that they admitted culpability, it was that the person involved in the case withdrew their complaint.
Yes, well, it was a bit of a drawn-out process for Paul Cerys because she went through the process of being told that she had, in fact, broken the rules through a hearing that took place, and then she had to appeal that decision.
And I heard that the initial hearing was like 3 hours long, and she was crying. And...
Yes, so there were no adjustments made for Cerys at the time. We found out later, or she got a diagnosis later that suggested she was suffering with autism.
And she was only 17 at the time.
And she was only 17, so she was still a minor. But we contended that it was procedurally unfair. At the time she was questioned, she got very tearful, and the tribunal at that point decided not to continue with the hearing rather than provide some form of adjustment to enable her to continue giving evidence, and that in itself was unfair. So we were able to successfully help her appeal. And yes, you're absolutely right. At the end, it was that the original decision was considered to be an unfair decision based on a procedural unfairness, and so a new hearing was actually due to take place. Obviously, we try and take on cases that we think fit within the free speech arena. And we do have a lot of cases come in, and we try and help people as much as possible. There are occasions when cases come to us and we see very clearly it's not one for us.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Aidan, what are we going to be talking about first this time?
Let's talk about Trent Alexander-Arnold, a key England player, a massive Liverpool player over the last 6-7 years as well, won the Champions League, 2 Premier League titles. He has been the subject of interest from Real Madrid for a couple of years now. They signalled their intention to sign him privately just a couple of years ago. And what they do, Real Madrid, is they park their tanks on your lawn and they wait for the player's contract to expire and get him for free. That's caused great anger among Liverpool fans because it means that one of their most sellable, most valuable assets is walking out of the club he professes to love and has loved since he was a child for the square amount of nothing. But because Real Madrid wants him right now, as in tomorrow...
He's only got a month left, hasn't he, on his contract?
Yes, but this is how important these players are because Real Madrid are competing in the Club World Cup. They want him to play right now, so he's going to become a Real Madrid player officially tomorrow, and Real Madrid have had to pay Liverpool £8.4 million
for the month.
For the privilege, just to get him early.
Yeah.
Just to get him early. They would say it's a small price because they're getting a £100 million player for nothing. So they're just going to pay £8.4 million to get him out of the contract a month early. Jurgen Klopp spoke earlier in the week. He said it was unacceptable the Liverpool fans booed him on a recent home game.
I remember that, yes.
And, that probably caused a bit of anger among Liverpool fans as well because, Liverpool fans object to being told how to think about players. And, my own personal view is that he gave great service to the club. Yes, he's walking out under freedom of contract, but he's not the first player to do it. Steve McManaman did it in 1998 when he went to Real Madrid, or 99 rather, he ran down...
So it all happens tomorrow, does it?
No, it doesn't all start tomorrow, no, but he becomes a Real Madrid player tomorrow.
Right.
And then the tournament gets underway later. But
well,
Real Madrid involved in it.
Fair dues. We've got the Champions League final tonight.
Yes, huge game. PSG versus Inter Milan. The first time they've ever played each other in a competitive match. What a stage to meet for the first time in Munich. Interesting stat. Paris Saint-Germain could become the first French side to win the Champions League since way back when Marseille did it in 1993. They did it against a Milan side, AC Milan that time, and they also did it in Munich. So there's an omen for you. So I just think, not for that reason, but I think the PSG, it just feels like their time. They had those Galacticos, didn't they? Neymar, Messi, Mbappe. They couldn't deliver anything outside of the domestic league. They couldn't get anywhere near winning the Champions League apart from getting to their final during the COVID season. And this season they have fought tooth and nail to get there. They've had some really tough opponents: Aston Villa, Manchester City, Liverpool and Arsenal. They've beaten them all, every single one of them, and that puts them in fine fettle going into this match tonight. Inter Milan, 3 times winners before. We're underway from 8 o'clock.
Right. We better have a look at Amélie Mauresmo.
Yes.
Amélie Mauresmo, that woman.
Yeah, it's a lovely name, though, Amélie Mauresmo.
It is nice. I only know her as a tennis player. I didn't know she was now a sort of top tennis boss.
Yes, she is, tournament director of the French Open. Interesting, because she was born in Geneva, played under the French flag, but never actually won the French Open. She did, though, win the Australian Open and Wimbledon in 2006. But she's been accused by Ons Jabeur, who, another Grand Slam winner herself this week, of undermining women's tennis because she's in charge of scheduling and she's given top prime billing exclusively to male players since the middle of 2023. Now, I would imagine that the TV bosses want those matches on because they last longer.
Yeah.
I'd imagine that inside those controlling the sale of the tickets want to make sure that when people pay €100, €150 for Seton Lenglen or Philippe Chatrier, they want to be sure that they're going to get a certain amount of time.
So it's not so much her decision, probably, is it?
Well, it is. She has the final decision, but obviously there are stakeholders, there are people who have to be,
so she's got to keep
considered.
them happy.
Exactly. And so it's no different to boxing. Had this massive problem for years, Stephen, about how people would turn up to see one bout. There was no undercard.
Yeah.
What happens if it finishes in 2 minutes? They go out in the first round. I mean, people eventually are going to say, well, this is too much of a risk to take.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give up my evening and pay a fortune to go to an elite sporting event.
The key question is, then, shouldn't the women play 5 sets?
I've felt that, and you're a tennis fan. I've felt that for years.
Because you do feel shortchanged. You're looking forward to a really good match, and it can be over like that.
Well, look, even if it's one-sided and it's an exhibition match almost, you at least want to see a top player, even if they're just rolling over their opponents. You want to see them performing at their best. Yes, that's what they can do. They're so good they can just swat away their opponents just like that. I'd rather watch an hour and a half of that than just 40 minutes. And the idea that elite athletes, like going back in the day, Mauresmo herself, Serena Williams, people like this can't play an extra 40 minutes.
I seem to remember Billie Jean King was quite vocal about it at some point.
Yeah, she was. And we're not saying they should play it in every tournament around the world. The men don't do that. They play best of 3 pretty much everywhere, apart from the slams. But in the slams, at the very least, I think the women have to... We've now hit a point, with the advent of sports science, players playing on later and later, I think they've got to play best of 5 in the slams.
All right. Aidan, thank you very much indeed. We'll see you the next hour.
And in a couple of moments' time, we'll be looking through the papers. First of all, though, let's have a look at the forecast for some of the top European hotspots.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Heatwave conditions set to continue across parts of Europe where 40 degrees Celsius is possible, this turning into a thundery breakdown elsewhere. Now, the heatwave conditions will continue across parts of Portugal, Spain and also Morocco, but it's likely we'll see the peak of heat through today. But this turning into thundery showers, particularly across France and Germany, but elsewhere across Rome, the Adriatic coastline and across Greece, it should be mostly dry, settled, still feeling warm in the sunshine, and temperatures into next week still remaining in the mid-20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and he did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Right, we're going through the papers at 8:46 with Kevin Schofield and Susie Stride. Let's talk about the vape ban, Kevin, which, I mean, a lot of the papers are covering it because it's tomorrow, isn't it? It's the last day of disposable vapes.
1st of June, that's right. It'll be illegal to sell them after tomorrow. And, yeah, I mean, it says here that shops understandably are slashing their prices, basically,
to get rid of the stock.
And you can understand why it's been done, because, as we were just saying, you know, because they're disposable, as the name suggests, you find them everywhere. You know, people just get them, use them and chuck them. But I was just wondering whether it might lead to more people just taking up smoking again.
Why would it?
Well, if you're
Why
not...
would it?
If it's just, you know, it's not as convenient to get a vape, would you not just think, well...
But it still will be as convenient to get a vape. I mean, there's loads of... I mean, I know you buy these in corner shops and things and supermarkets and all the rest of it, but you can buy the vapes that you refill yourself and then you just buy the solution or whatever you want to put in it. And it's cheaper. I mean, it's much, much, much cheaper than a disposable vape.
Yeah.
So why would you buy disposable anyway?
I think a lot of people, though, have used vapes, haven't they, to wean themselves off cigarettes.
Yeah.
And I just don't know, maybe if they're like, oh, I can't get that anymore, I'll just get a packet of fags instead.
I think the thing is look, it has led to, you know, a boom in children vaping, you know, and also the amount of waste that it produces. I think when you weigh it all up, this is a good move. This is an important move. And for me, again, it comes back to the fact that you've got children spending their pocket money, you know, on vapes.
But they should... but I don't know if that'll ever stop, because, I mean, how are they getting them for a kick-off? Because you can't go into a shop and buy a vape as a child. Anyway, you've got to be 18.
You shouldn't. I'm sure there are shops that turn a blind eye to it.
I'm sure there are.
But it's the flavours as well. They're almost as if they're...
Made for children.
Made for children.
Yeah.
But the flavours won't change.
No.
But, I mean, that's what... I mean, they should really be doing everything they can to make these not attractive for children. That's what they should be doing.
It's like Alco Pops when they started to bring those in.
Yeah.
They are
Alco Pop, remember them?
Yeah. We were all scared of them.
Yeah, that was
Whatever
the big
happened
moral
to them,
panic
really?
back
No,
then,
sure.
yeah.
They're kind of there, but in the background.
Yeah.
I think they are still there. But, yeah, I don't know. I think this is a good move. I think it's important. I think, you know, even the workers, when they recycle them, they have to take each individual one apart. I mean, it's just madness, So I think it's positive, but I actually think they need to go even further, to be honest, because I think...
Well, going further how?
Well, that's the question. I'm not saying I've got the answer to that one, but...
Ban them all together.
See, if you ban them all together, if you ban all vapes, then that's when you will get more people smoking.
All right, what about instead getting a tub of ice cream? Which a lot of people I know do that. Instead of vaping or smoking a cigarette, just grab one of the biggest tubs of ice cream.
Yeah.
But who is it who's bringing these weird ice creams out?
So this is Anja Hindmarch, who every year, she's a designer, famous for designing really fancy handbags, opens an ice cream project. It's basically like a pop-up, selling £4.50 scoops.
Sorry? £4.50 scoops?
I mean, that is a lot of money for a scoop of ice cream.
Well, but
no,
why?
I know.
Why so expensive?
Well, I think, obviously she's quite an expensive handbag maker, so obviously it's kind of high-end. But what the twist on it is the bizarre flavours, and it's sort of iconic British brands but turned into ice cream. For instance, in the past she's had Branston pickle and cheese.
Ooh,
I'd try that.
Ice cream.
But it says here, But so this year it's Bird's custard.
I'd definitely have that.
That's not a bad one.
I love custard.
Yeah, that's fine.
Like
it's the Bisto gravy that I'm just like...
Yeah, there's a Bisto gravy one.
What flavour gravy?
Beef. Well, beef, I take it, yeah. Twiglets. A Twiglet ice cream.
I quite like Twiglets.
So it's a kind of sweet and savoury type deal going on there. But there's one that's like Kendall mint cake. Well, that's just like a mint choc.
That's fine.
Pretty straightforward. Chocolate hobnobs, Orange Club.
Yes. Orange,
quite nice, actually. I'm not a big ice cream fan.
But one of them is an extra virgin olive oil flavoured ice cream.
That's just got to be weird, surely.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know. It's one of those strange things that might actually work.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's sriracha.
What's that?
It's like kind of sauce, like a spicy sauce, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is.
So yeah, there's all different, but it's it's a.
But £4.50. That's
I know
steep.
it's a con.
It must be a big scoop.
Totally. Ovaltine. Ovaltine.
Oh.
Have it just before you go to bed.
Ovaltine ice cream.
Oh yeah, I could do that. I used to like Ovaltine.
Yeah.
Is that like chocolatey?
It's malty.
Oh, malty.
Yeah.
OK.
Oh, come on, they're making me feel old. Have a cup of Ovaltine before you go to bed.
What they need is Werther's original flavour ice cream.
Well, there you go.
And your slippers.
In the meantime, come have a look at this. I know it's one of Kevin's, but you'll want to chip in on this one as well. Sydney Sweeney, who's an American actress who I've never heard of, I've got to be honest. But nevertheless, she's only 27, but very famous. She's selling soap infused with her used bath water.
I mean, it is just another random one, isn't it? It's like you've got ice cream that is tasting of gravy.
Yeah.
And now we've got bath water. We've got soaps that have got the bath water of this actress. I mean, I don't know, and I bet that probably costs a fortune as well, doesn't it, for the soap?
But that's...
I mean, so there's pine bark and scented Douglas fir in it as well.
Yeah.
But also, I don't
the
want
point
soap.
is, it's her used bath
I
water.
want soap made with somebody's dirty bath water, because surely by its very nature it's a bit dirty.
Yeah.
I'm guessing
weird.
it's a certain type of man.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
I'm just reading between the lines, Stephen.
So she's going to sell it, so maybe if she can make a...
If you make money out of it, then why not?
Bath full of money, then...
Apparently her fans wouldn't stop asking for it.
Yeah, that is... I mean...
That's a bit icky, isn't it, really?
What kind of fan is asking her?
I know.
Our director's just said he's ordered a crate of it already. Goes to show what sort of man he is.
Where there's muck, there's brass.
Yes. Oh, very good.
So there we are.
Very good. Oh, it's disgusting. Susie, should we look at King Charles? Charles.
Yes.
Because we found out what gifts he's received.
Yeah, it's fascinating. You know, 2 gold Blue Peter badges.
That's fine.
You know, I mean, it's nice. What I found quite fascinating, the gift from Joe Biden gave Charles letters from his mother inviting Dwight Eisenhower to the UK. I think that's the most fascinating
That
one.
is interesting, isn't
yeah.
it? That's
I think those historical ones are always, you know, more fascinating.
Oh, really? I'm more interested by the £300,000 Rolls Royce he's been given.
Yeah, so there's a Rolls Royce.
I'm not sure he would need that, would he, really? He's not going to get a lot of use out of that, is he?
No, don't know.
2 carved staffs from an Amazonian indigenous leader. So, yeah, lots of kind of random gifts. But, yeah, you probably would want the Rolls Royce. Which one would you pick out?
I wouldn't say no to the Rolls Royce. I mean, one thing I would say about the Joe Biden one, at least, is quite thoughtful.
Yes, it is. I think that's
And
nice.
it reminds me of when Gordon Brown met Barack Obama, and the gift he gave him was a box set of DVDs, and Barack Obama gave him, like, a really thoughtful stuff from the Pilgrim Fathers. It was very embarrassing.
Right, you two, thank you very much indeed. Here's the weather.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. This weekend, we could see some quite squally showers at times, a risk of thunderstorms, but it's not going to be a total washout. There'll be plenty of brighter spells and feeling particularly warm across the southeast as we head towards this afternoon. Though a very different story across Scotland, Northern Ireland, some quite blustery showers moving their way eastwards. This turning heavy at times, possibly thundery during the morning, but it's really into the afternoon across the northeast of England where we could potentially see some thunderstorms. But across central areas, parts of the southeast, that's where we'll see the best of the brightness, but it's likely to feel quite warm, quite muggy at times, highs reaching around 26 to 27 degrees Celsius. I'm afraid the unsettled weather is set to last across Scotland through much of the day. Still plenty of quite heavy, showery outbreaks skirting their way eastwards, turning quite blustery, particularly across exposed coasts. But across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, it should brighten up nicely. There is still the risk of the odd shower at times. But elsewhere across England and Wales, mostly dry and bright. That's away from Wales, perhaps the far west of Cornwall. A little cloudier here, potentially with some drizzle. But it's really across this southeast where it's going to remain mostly dry and warm, and then overnight once again there should be plenty of dry spells, some low cloud at times, but once again it's across the northwest, western parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland where we see a return of the cloud, some heavy outbreaks of rain by the time we reach the morning, and still quite windy here. And across the southeast, another mild and muggy night to come, many towns and cities not really dropping below 12 or 13 degrees. Now for Sunday, many areas seeing a drier and brighter day once again, mainly across the south, still across Scotland, Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, a return of the blustery showers, but brightening up later, a mix of sunny spells and showers, but it's likely to feel like a fresher day for all, but still highs reaching the low 20s, so it's still going to be warm and pleasant where you catch the sunshine.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you could be our biggest winner yet, touring in this stylish Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. This brand new 2025 model comes complete with kitchen and bathroom areas and enough space to comfortably sleep a family of 4. We'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to add a few of your favourite things. Don't miss out as lines close on the 6th of June. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
So apparently, Harry has looked at the latest polls that put him down at 27%. And he seriously has. He's looked at them and he's upset by it. And he's realised, and this is a source really close to him, has told me that he's realised there's nowhere to go but up. So what he's done is he's decided, OK, what hasn't been working? And that's US Sunshine Sachs, kind of Hollywood PR agents, just anything Hollywood and American, basically, hasn't worked for him. What did work for him? When was he popular? When he was part of the royal household.
When he wasn't with Meghan.
Well, and that, but he's never going to admit that at this point. But anyway, so what he's done is he's set up around himself the exact thing that he's been railing against all these years, which is a really concrete, firm structure of a hierarchical, top-down kind of PR voices on his behalf, and chiefs of staff, and it's basically a royal household.
This is like a faux royal household. And it's interesting you say that Harry actually looks at these things. He looks at the comments, he reads the headlines, he looks at the poll figures. I've heard before that he used to scour Twitter under an anonymous username looking for anything to do with comments to do with his name. Is that true?
That is true, although he does now, with this new structure, they actually protect him from reading the British tabloids. So they basically read on his behalf the British tabloids. Meghan does not at all read the British tabloids. Nothing. She does not engage in British media whatsoever.
Right.
And she's shielded from that by this new household. And the point of the new household is this kind of shield around them that protects them. Because they hated Kensington Palace, but thanks to Kensington Palace, they got away with murder on quite a lot of their behaviour. You know, and they were really protected by Kensington Palace, and they were pretty ungrateful at the time as well.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning. Pressure piles on the Prime Minister. Keir Starmer has faced calls to sack his Attorney-General for his comments around Nazism and leaving the ECHR.
Lord Hermer was forced to apologise yesterday, with Conservative and Reform MPs saying that's not enough. He should be removed from his post.
Well, Kemi Badenoch is leading those calls to sack him, but the Prime Minister insists he has full confidence in his lordship.
President Trump holds a press conference in the Oval Office with Elon Musk, and that is because Elon Musk has come to the end of his White House contract.
About 20 little ships will return to Ramsgate today to mark the 85th anniversary of Operation Dynamo.
We are all at sea with those small ships that managed to save over 300,000 lives in Dunkirk 85 years ago. Right now, we're just passing the mall that, of course, that harbour was built to get those men off the beaches. We'll have more throughout the day.
You've got just one more day until disposable vapes are banned. We're going to find out what impact it's actually going to have.
And it's the final weekend of the sunniest spring on record. Temperatures this weekend are hopefully as high as 27 degrees.
Manchester United boss Ruben Amorim is confident his captain Bruno Fernandes won't be swayed by the £130 million offer on the table in Saudi. We'll look ahead also to tonight's Champions League final in Munich. And in the French Open, tournament director Amélie Mauresmo is accused of undermining women's tennis.
Hello there, good morning. A mixed bag of weather today, some heavy showers, a risk of thunderstorms, but also plenty of warm sunshine. Stay tuned and I'll have all the details.
It's just gone 9 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Anne Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Do you ever moan when you've been to the doctors or something and you think that nothing works? The pills don't work, it's not helping, I'm not getting any better. We should stop moaning.
Why?
Basically, because there's some weird and wonderful stuff about that's happened in the past to try and help us out. Things like a healing tonic that was invented in the late 1800s, which actually was a hit because it was made of red wine and coca leaves, which have got a lot of cocaine in them.
You still get it from the NHS.
So it didn't, but it didn't make you very well, obviously. Things like, for a period in the 1800s, they used to think you could substitute blood with milk. And so they give you a milk transfusion.
Oh, that's weird.
Incredibly, the paper says, sometimes it was successful, but the majority of patients died.
Well, that's not very successful then, really, is it?
Yes. Things like cigarettes, because we're talking about vaping later on, they were often used as a treatment for asthma and hay fever. And if you had cholera, you would get a tobacco smoke enema.
OK.
And the worst one is that if you had toothache, the ancient Egyptians would mash up a mouse and put it on the affected area.
What on earth made them think of that?
I don't know, but that was meant to, and because obviously we've been talking a little bit for various other reasons about Germany in the 1930s. Hitler was very paranoid about his health, apparently, and he used to have lots of vitamin injections, but they were laced with crystal meth.
Well, that explains.
It does explain quite a bit, doesn't it? Observers said they kept him fresh, alert and immediately ready for the day. And crackers, clearly.
Yeah, totally crackers.
So anyway, next time you think you've got a pill that's not working, don't moan, it could be worse.
Don't moan to the doctor. Don't go to the doctor.
No, don't moan about having toothache.
Because you never know what they might do.
No. But anyway, so there you go. Just a little bit of interesting stuff in the Star this morning.
It's in the Star.
Well, I love these sort of things. It's just interesting, isn't it?
What was the mouse treatment? What was that for?
Toothache.
Is that under a plan called Rodent?
Oh,
well, yeah.
Give over.
I could see the cogs in your brain whirring there, wondering what you were coming up with.
Yes, there's some other ones in here which I don't read out.
Oh.
But it's really, really, really bad. Especially if you're a man with...
No, don't go.
Love issues. You didn't want to do that.
No.
Now, let's move on to the Attorney-General, should we, Lord Hermer, who's caused a stir after he compared people who want to leave the ECHR to the rise of Nazi Germany in the 1930s.
Yes, he was speaking at the annual security lecture at the Royal United Services Institute.
Gripping.
Absolutely gripping, don't you wish you'd been there? Lord Hermer claimed that people who call for the UK to quit international agreements echo similar demands that were made in Germany in the 1930s, basically inferring that if you think such things, then you're far, far, far right.
Well, perhaps the Attorney-General doesn't have to worry because Number 10 has told GB News that he enjoys Sir Keir Starmer's full confidence.
Yeah, well, he would say that, wouldn't he, at the moment? With us now, Deputy Editor for Spite, Fraser Myers. I must say, I didn't even know there was a Lord Hermer until suddenly we find him on the front page of the newspapers.
And that's how it should be. The Attorney-General should be quietly getting on, giving the government legal advice. He shouldn't be making provocative speeches comparing essentially the government's opponents to Nazis. What he did was he didn't, use those words directly, but it was so heavily implied. He basically talked about... He compared those who want to renege on international agreements to the German jurist Carl Schmitt, who joined the Nazi Party in 1933, and some of his, legal axioms were used by the Nazis. It just is absurd, really. I think the problem for Starmer is not just that Hermer has said this. Hermer is actually becoming a wider problem for the government. Internally, there's a lot of frustration with him from other ministers because he's seen as blocking lots of decisions because he fears that they could go to court and that the government might be embarrassed in the courts, and that would be the worst thing ever in the eyes of these lawyers. There is a sort of reverence for the law, and in particular international law, that I think makes very little sense, because it's as if that we should consider international law as distinct from what are the British government's interests, what are the public's interests, and just because something has been put down in a treaty, therefore it should, carry more weight than the public's needs.
Well, it begs the question: what about democracy? Doesn't it?
Well, precisely. That's the point. Many treaties. A treaty that's signed recently will have some democratic clout because it will have been signed by the current government, for instance. But if we're talking about something like the ECHR, which came about in the 1950s, or the Refugee Convention, another issue that is another treaty that is essentially making it difficult to deport people, then clearly what democratic clout does that have? No one alive, few people alive today will have been able to even influence that. If you take the Refugee Convention, for instance, under that, there are probably about, I think the UN estimates there are 53 million people who in the world who should have refugee status that would therefore, if they were to come to the UK, be eligible to live here. Now, that's clearly, I mean, thankfully, they're not all going to come to the UK, but that's clearly unsustainable. That's clearly not what and it's clearly not what the treaty had in mind. Many of these treaties were set up in the wake of the Second World War in order to prevent a Holocaust, but also to be able to help people who are fleeing that kind of event. That today, it's being used essentially to say that pretty much anyone with even the slightest, anyone who might have come here, committed a crime and happens to have a child in the UK or happens to have some sort of family tie cannot be deported. Or if they can make some claim that they might be get in trouble at home. I mean, not even just... If you look at, so for instance, you know, there's a right to not be tortured, which everyone would agree with. But that was used this week to say that a man can't be deported back to Pakistan because he'd had affairs, and that would get him in trouble with his wife and family, and then he might be beaten up or something. So these laws have been twisted beyond their, you know, beyond their original use. They're completely unrecognisable, and yet someone like Lord Hermer still says, well, they are basically holy written. They can't be challenged.
But the whole issue of looking at our membership of if it is a membership, signing up to the ECHR, that is a valid thing to debate, isn't it? And what he's doing is he's well, he's insulting everybody who thinks it's a valid reason for debate.
Absolutely. All of these things should be up for debate. Our membership of any club or any treaty should be up for debate. We live in a democracy. There should be no questions that are not on the table. He's also out of step with many of our European partners as well. They are just as frustrated with the ECHR. Now, they can't leave because if they're in the EU, you have to be a member of the ECHR. It's very difficult for them to leave, but they want to see reform. But he is essentially saying that you shouldn't even have reform because what the ECHR says is gold and it can't be gone against. So it's a very bizarre position. I think it is unfortunately, it is the worldview of Keir Starmer if he does have one. You know, they believe that the law, and they believe in the rule of law and the rule of lawyers and the rule of treaties and the rule of courts. That's more important than democracy. And that is going to prove a problem politically, I think, for Starmer.
Yeah, and he's had a difficult week, hasn't he? And this whole thing, which has got a lot of people scratching their heads as to why. I mean, Nigel Farage, you know, well, he wasn't even a press conference, was he? He was on stage at some bizarre Bitcoin conference in Vegas. I mean, what that's all about, I've no idea.
With donations, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, but, you know, he's doing that. And there is a need. The Prime Minister feels a need to respond in an emergency press conference to someone who's got 5 MPs in the House of Commons, 4 years away from a general election. It's extraordinary.
He's clearly rattled, but you'd think he'd do a better job of hiding it. He named Nigel Farage so many times directly in that speech. It was very unbecoming of someone holding the office of Prime Minister. You would think that he would treat Nigel Farage as you'd sort of flick him away if you had any real sense. You wouldn't confront him directly, or at least maybe you would closer to an election. But they're clearly rattled. This is probably the reason why Starmer did his Island of Strangers speech. You know, he wants to talk tough on immigration. So he's taking the message that we're the party that is going to actually deal with migration. Don't trust Farage. No one quite believes that.
Well, no, because I mean, the problem he's got is he's in government.
Yeah.
And so if you talk the talk, you've got to walk the walk, and we're not seeing any action.
And we're not seeing any action, and one of the reasons is that it ties back to this ECHR issue, and that seems to be one of the few rock-solid things that Keir Starmer is not going to U-turn on. He believes that our membership of the ECHR is absolutely critical. He won't change on that. He'll flip-flop on anything else but that, and that's going to be a real problem. That's going to prevent them from getting rid of lots of illegal migrants.
The fact that Farage is living rent-free in the Prime Minister's head, as Christopher Hope put it, is problematic for the Conservatives as well, isn't it? Because they don't seem to be on the playing field very much at the moment. And even on issues like, I mean, the ECHR, I mean, we know Kemi Badenoch sort of saying, oh, well, Lord Hermer needs to go.
Yeah.
But she hasn't actually clarified what the Tories' position on the ECHR is.
That's true. I think the Tories only have a few policies. They're against they want to restore the winter fuel payment and they want to get rid of the farmers' inheritance tax. But they won't confirm exactly what they think. they need to come out and say what the position is. I think the mood is such that it would be very popular, I think, to just say we will leave the ECHR, or to say we will have a referendum on the ECHR, one of those things. I don't think it's tenable to not have a position on this, because it will become one of the defining features of the politics over the next few years.
Well, she's obviously determined just not to fight an election issue at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, she's saying, let's watch and wait, let's make sure all of our policies are thought through. I mean, but you can still set a direction. You don't have to say, we're going to spend exactly this amount on X, Y, Z, but you can still set more of a direction. I think she's not doing that very well.
OK. Fraser, thanks very much indeed.
Well, since we've been talking about Lord Hermer, the Attorney-General, we've got to actually tell you what his official statement is. And it's this. The Attorney-General gave a speech defending international law, which underpins our security, protects against threats from aggressive states like Russia, and helps tackle organised immigration crime. He rejects the characterisation of his speech by the Conservatives. He acknowledges, though, that his choice of words was clumsy and regrets having used this reference.
Now, 14 minutes past 9, you've just got a day left, really, until the sale and supply of disposable vapes is banned in the UK.
Yeah, it's being used as a way to tackle waste and the impact of vapes on the environment.
Well, we went out to the streets of Scotland to see what people there think.
It's addictive. It's more addictive than cigarettes, I believe, especially for younger folk. You've got the colours on them. It's like multicolours and all that. It's attracting young kids in a way, you know.
So, I think for the younger generation, it's a good thing. Definitely see them get banned.
I think they're bad for the environment, and I think they're bad for health.
They're bad for visually as well, you know, on the pavements and all that.
It'll help like kids and like their health later on in life, because obviously no one knows what's in them and like what they're going to do to you. So I just think it's better that they're getting banned.
Oh, well, everyone there seems to think it's all good that they're getting banned. Not everyone will agree with that point of view, of course. Should we talk to the sales director at Riot Labs, Matt Cran? Matt, morning to you. I wonder what you make of this, because I don't know what Riot does in terms of disposables, but you obviously create a lot of juices, as I would call them, for the reusable ones, the refillable vapes, which, of course, will still continue. So is this a good move or a bad move by government?
I think it's a good move for the environment. I think there is a huge amount of waste when it comes to disposable e-cigarettes. The issue we have here is that the enforcement isn't there to stop people, to stop illicit traders to continue to sell these products. We already have a market where 30% is the black market. And by adding more rules and regulation and prohibition, we'll just see the black market increase. So we need more enforcement to be able to cope with this new law.
What do you think people will do, though? Those who, I mean, and some of them are quite young, those who just like the disposable vape because it's easy, trendy smells, I was going to say tastes, is it?
Tastes, yeah.
Tastes. What will they do? Will they go back to cigarettes, if they ever were, with cigarettes? Or will they go more to your product? Or what will they do? What effect will it have on them?
We've seen disposable e-cigarettes boom in the last 4 years, and they've actually helped millions of smokers quit, which is a great thing. But what we've seen in the last 18 months is a huge amount of disposable users move over to more sustainable and more economical products like our e-liquids and refillable devices. So in a time where people don't have a disposable income, the disposables are very expensive. So we've seen a lot of people move over already. And anyone who is unsure on what to do if they currently vape disposables, the best advice is to go and see your local vape shop and get the correct products, regulated products, and the correct advice to continue your quitting journey.
You see, what do you make of this argument that, and it has been made a lot, and we've talked about it a lot on the show, about people saying, well, you know, it will force people back into smoking. See, I don't buy that as someone who used to smoke. Because smoking tastes disgusting, and once you wouldn't want to go back to it, would you?
I completely agree with you. There are a huge amount of people in the industry that do believe people could go back to smoking, and obviously it's a possibility. However, when you move from smoking to vaping, the benefits that you feel in your pocket, in your health is incredible. And to go back, I couldn't think of anything worse to go back to smoking a cigarette now. And I think that's the same for most vapors. And like I say, there's much better products on the market than these disposables, much more sustainable, much more economical.
I tell you what struck me was one of the girls up in Scotland saying, well, you know, we don't know what the long-term health is. We don't know what's in these. And that's part of the thing, isn't it? That, I mean, and as you say, it's a regulated market when you go to e-liquids and what have you. But we're not necessarily aware of what is actually in them. As consumers, I mean.
Yeah, vapes are a harm reduction tool. As a brand, we tell anyone that if you smoke, you're better off vaping. But if you don't smoke, then fresh air is the best option for you. So these are a harm reduction tool. They're at least 95% less harmful than smoking. And I'm sure there's many viewers here that have transitioned and would confirm that.
Yeah, I find that fascinating. I've never smoked, but you say the idea of going back to a cigarette now.
Oh, disgusting.
Tastes disgusting.
Disgusting. I've always thought that argument that people will... it's often been said, oh, vaping is a step towards smoking. I don't think so.
Well, we'll see.
I think that's an argument made by people who've never smoked.
Yeah, I think they just don't know.
It is horrid, really.
Matt, thanks very much indeed for joining us this morning.
Good to see you.
My pleasure, thank you.
Thank you. Should we find out what the weather's got in store for us?
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. This weekend, we could see some quite squally showers at times, a risk of thunderstorms, but it's not going to be a total washout. There'll be plenty of brighter spells and feeling particularly warm across the southeast as we head towards this afternoon. Though a very different story across Scotland, Northern Ireland, some quite blustery showers moving their way eastwards. This turning heavy at times, possibly thundery during the morning, but it's really into the afternoon across the northeast of England where we could potentially see some thunderstorms. But across central areas, parts of the southeast, that's where we'll see the best of the brightness, but it's likely to feel quite warm, quite muggy at times, highs reaching around 26 to 27 degrees Celsius. I'm afraid the unsettled weather is set to last across Scotland through much of the day. Still plenty of quite heavy, showery outbreaks skirting their way eastwards, turning quite blustery, particularly across exposed coasts. But across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, it should brighten up nicely. There is still the risk of the odd shower at times. But elsewhere across England and Wales, mostly dry and bright. That's away from Wales, perhaps the far west of Cornwall, a little cloudier here, potentially with some drizzle. But it's really across this southeast where it's going to remain mostly dry and warm, and then overnight once again there should be plenty of dry spells, some low cloud at times, but once again it's across the northwest, western parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland where we see a return of the cloud, some heavy outbreaks of rain by the time we reach the morning, and still quite windy here. And across the southeast, another mild and muggy night to come, many towns and cities not really dropping below 12 or 13 degrees. Now for Sunday, many areas seeing a drier and brighter day once again, mainly across the south, still across Scotland, Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, a return of the blustery showers, but brightening up later, a mix of sunny spells and showers, but it's likely to feel like a fresher day for all, but still highs reaching the low 20s, so it's still going to be warm and pleasant where you catch the sunshine.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed Heat Pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
And now to the Great British Giveaway. Why are you looking at me like that? He just wants this car, I was going to say, motorhome, so badly.
Can we please not give it away? And maybe I should say, please do not enter this competition in the final week. Oh, I could get into trouble, couldn't I?
I think you could, yeah.
Don't enter.
But lots of people already have.
No, because I haven't entered because I'm not allowed. I know. If nobody won it, maybe
go out and buy one, for heaven's sake, or rent one for a week or something.
Rent one.
Get it out of your system.
I can't get it out of my system. I really won't. I'm not just going to buy one because it's worth nearly £68,000.
Yes, it is.
It's huge.
And then you also get £5,000 free as well, and that's tax-free.
And honestly, one of you lucky devils is going to get it. I cannot believe how envious I am of that one person. If you want it to be you, and I may come and stalk you, here's how you enter.
It's the final week to see how you could be our biggest winner yet.
Driving away in this Elnag Baron 560 motorhome, courtesy of Marquis Leisure. It has plenty of room for your family of 4. Comes complete with kitchen, bathroom, and all the space you'll need for life on the road. And the best news? You can drive it on your existing driving licence. Plus, we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. Don't delay. You can't win if you're not in the draw. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
This motorhome and £5,000 in cash really could be yours. Good luck.
Good luck getting your hands off it. On it, I mean.
On it.
Off yours, yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, do stay with us. Still to come, we're going to be heading back to Dunkirk, where a flotilla is returning to Ramsgate today after staging an event to honour Operation Dynamo, 85 years on. That's coming up next.
Nigel is back.
Good evening.
Unfiltered.
Are these proposals bold enough?
Uncompromising.
Will it bring growth?
Unmissable.
We as a country are brilliant.
Nigel Farage returns this Tuesday from 7 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as
and now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
9:27 now, about 20 little ships are returning to Ramsgate today.
The flotilla set off from the Royal Harbour for Dunkirk on May the 21st as part of events marking the 85th anniversary of Operation Dynamo, where over 338,000 Allied troops were safely evacuated.
Well, it's going to be quite a journey heading back to British shores today. Doogie Beattie's on board some vessel, some or other, preparing to head back. Morning, Doogie.
Good morning. Good morning, Steve. Good morning, Anne. Yes, we are. We are on our Lizzie. And we are actually, if you can just see there, Steve can get round to there, there is the beaches of Dunkirk. There's actually 50 boats, only 20 are returning to Ramsgate. The other are going to all parts of the UK because, of course, historically they did come from all parts of the UK when Britain faced its darkest hour. And these beaches behind us had to be evacuated because the British Expeditionary Force were pushed into the sea by Nazi Germany at that particular time. And only 4 little ships like this, Britain may well have been finished. Europe may well have been finished because the amount of munitions, the amount of soldiers that were there, of course, if they'd have been captured by the Germans, 10,000 of them were captured by the Germans, it would have been a totally different story. And we are on these little boats. All these boats were actually at Dunkirk the first time. This is a beautiful ship, and it is probably about 95 years old or something. With me is the owner, Peter Manning. Peter, tell us a bit about this ship.
Well, our Lizzie was a sailing drifter from St Ives. In 1920, she was commissioned. She spent first 14 years of her life fishing, drifting. And then one of the brothers had an accident. He died on another sailing drifter, and she was sold into private ownership. She didn't fish anymore. She was converted to a yacht in 1936. Now, her owners used to sail her around the Baltic quite a lot for family holidays. And just before the war, they were asked to do the same thing, but this time to look at particular German installations. Many ships were involved in doing this sort of spying mission locally. After that, she was picked up at Burnham by the Navy for Dunkirk.
And you have owned this ship for how long?
10 years.
And how much money do you have to put in this and work?
I want to tell you that. It's an ongoing labour of maintenance and love.
And why do you do it?
Well, sometimes I tell people it's because we're slightly insane, but boats are a bit like people, a bit like girls. You fall in love with them, and then they become part of your life.
And cost you a lot of money.
And they cost you a lot of money. Well, it's all part of it. It's sort of a wonderful thing, and the pride of just keeping her right and sailing her is something, an experience that, it's probably one of the best experiences in life.
Well, there you go. That comes from a man. I mean, these boats aren't worth it. They're actually worth less than what they put into them, but they're doing it to keep this story alive, to remind people of the heritage of what happened here and how this changed the shape of the Second World War. And of course it would have been a very, very different place. And if you just look in front of us there, I don't know if Steve can get to that, you can see actually how many little boats are here. It is quite humbling, and it is quite scary to think, because I mean we're passing over the top of wrecks at this moment in time, and it's quite scary to think that so many of these little boats didn't make it back. But we will be doing this 7-hour trip and arriving in Ramsgate probably about 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Lovely stuff. Doogie, thank
wonderful.
you. It does look wonderful, and what beautiful little ships to be on.
But just looking at that picture now, if you're listening on the radio, it's just gorgeous. All of the little ships on the water. You realise how incredibly frightening it must have been to do that, knowing that you'd come under fire, and deadly fire too. And you'd be forced, as many of the little boats were forced, to actually say no to some of the soldiers, because to take any more on board would have actually been dangerous.
What is it Doogie said earlier, about 300 didn't make it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible.
And that's why this sort of thing is worth remembering. Of course it is.
Yeah, we do, because it's the only way we protect ourselves from not having to go through something similar again, as other parts of the world are at the moment. Obviously, we want to safeguard ourselves as best we can.
A lot of people, thank you very much, getting in touch and saying, the Attorney-General has admitted that his choice of words about Nazis and things was clumsy. And a lot of people getting in touch saying, well, maybe Lucy Connolly should have argued that. Her choice of words was clumsy and then she'd been let off. I don't know. But it's a good point.
Well, yes, that case needs to be looked at, doesn't it?
Doesn't it?
Right, we're going to take a short break, but when we're back, would you move to Saudi Arabia for, well, basically £65 million a year, tax-free? Well, the answer is clearly yes. Bruno Fernandes hasn't decided yet. I know which way he's going to go, though. Let's see if Aidan McGee does in a couple of minutes.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now, controversial classroom materials promoted in schools suggest Stonehenge was built by Black Britons and that Roman Emperor Nero wed a trans woman. This is according to a leading education think tank. Meanwhile, iconic British military triumphs like, I don't know, Waterloo and Trafalgar are being sidelined. This comes as research shows fewer than 1 in 10 schools cover them in the curriculum. Joining me now is the wonderful Bobby Seagull, a fellow West Ham sufferer, and always a joy to chat to him. Bobby, lovely to see you this afternoon. However, this story is worrying me slightly. What do you make of it?
There's established fact, and then there's history that's outside the bounds of what most normal people deem as convention or established fact. And that's where we've got to be careful. Dates like 1066, Battle of Hastings, 1215, Magna Carta, 1455, the War of the Roses. These are established facts that children should learn. Other things, again, my family wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the British Empire. So my parents from Kerala in South India, they moved to Britain in the late 70s. So I'm a child of empire, as it were. So I think it's making sure that we teach all children all the key dates in British history and what it means. But also, I think, sensitively, the context of Britain in terms of empire, migration, social change, because we are a diverse country, but I think it's like being careful not to teach contentious, disputed history as established fact. That's where I think we overstep the mark.
So why is this being included in so many schools? I mean, I was astonished the other day when we had the VE Day memorial to hear a mum phone up a radio show and say, my child hasn't been taught anything about it. I mean, that's sad.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Right, Aidan's here, and we're starting with the Champions League.
Yes, huge game tonight at 8 o'clock from Munich.
Yeah.
Live pictures just there from live in Munich. We'll see them in a moment. But yeah, it's Inter Milan versus Paris Saint-Germain. So Paris Saint-Germain never won this trophy before. It's a huge thing for them. They threw money. Well, they have done in general, actually, since 2011, since they were taken over by members of the Qatari royal family. They signed Kylian Mbappe, they signed Lionel Messi, they had Neymar. They're the shots there from outside the Allianz Arena in Munich.
It's not till 8 o'clock this evening, is it?
No, it's not, that's right. Yeah, I think that's a UEFA locked-off camera there, which will be there, stationed there throughout. So, a French side has not won the Champions League since 1993. That was Marseille at that time, against a side from Milan, Stephen, and it's in Munich, so they'll be considering all the omens for that. But yeah, just getting back to how PSG have spent since 2011. I mean, all those 3 players they brought in, they couldn't deliver them a European trophy, or the one they really want, the Champions League. They have a more base side now. The front 3 really do attack their opponents, don't allow them space to breathe on the pitch. And it was enough to help them beat Manchester City, Liverpool, Aston Villa and Arsenal, 4 Premier League sides this season, and that's why I just think they have the edge tonight. Although Inter Milan did beat Barcelona in the semi-finals, so they're no mugs either. And they won it in 2011. They've won it 3 times previously. It's just a shame, I suppose, from a British point of view, that there are no Premier League clubs in there, although Arsenal gave it a good go. But it just seemed that if you faced PSG this season, you didn't have much of a chance.
Now, should we look at Man United? What planet is Ruben Amorim on?
That's a really good question, actually, because I think the situation is that he knows the player and he wants to keep him. He's his best player. Yeah. So from a coach's point of view, you're going to look at it selfishly, aren't you? But in reality, when we sit down and crunch the numbers, I mean, he doesn't do too badly right now. I mean, he's on £15 million a season. But if then someone comes along and says, we're going to pay you £65 million each season over a next 2-year contract, and who knows?
Tax-free.
Tax-free, because you have to stay there for 2 years to get the tax-free allowance. I mean, who's to say he couldn't stay afterwards? They might halve his wages to £30 million a season after that. It's still not bad work, is it?
No, it's not.
No. But more widely, I just think this is concerning for the Premier League, because when you've got entities that are backed by public state funds coming and taking your players, nothing you can really do to stop them going. And we've seen players like in the last couple of years, Jordan Henderson was deemed to be a little bit past his peak, ready to kind of wind down his career. He went to Saudi. And then, all right, he came from a big club, but he was past his peak, as I said. Ivan Toney, at his peak, playing for England, but didn't play for a big club. This one ticks all the boxes if it goes through, because he's the captain of Man United. Yes, United have been hopeless in the league last season, but he could still get into any Premier League side. And there he is, on his way, it looks like, to Al Hilal. Although, as you say, Ruben Amorim holding on to some kind of crumb of comfort that he won't...
he won't go. He wants to stay.
Look, I tell you who's going to have a decisive...
I tell you what, he might want to stay. But if you've seen your wages increase,
short career,
tenfold,
it's a short career, and also, if you include the tax element of it as well. But also, Man United, he's a 30-year-old player, and if they're being offered £100 million for him, given they didn't get into the Champions League, I know old Sir Jim Ratcliffe might be
old Jim.
Might be. So he's not that old.
Last time you're in hospitality.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. But I think he'll be relishing the fact that having lost the Champions League revenue, this is a chance to recover some of that, or most of it.
Yeah. We haven't touched on the Lionesses yet this morning. We should do, shouldn't we? Because it was a hell of a score.
6-0 against Portugal. They were 5-0 up at half-time. And a hat-trick for Aggie Beaver-Jones. Mary Earps, earlier in the week, the goalkeeper, had decided to quit. Mary Queen of Stops. I think that she wasn't guaranteed to be... She wasn't going to be... Well, they're calling it a Mary Queen of Strops now, because apparently she threw her toys out of the pram for not being... because she's not guaranteed to be first choice. Mary Queen of Strops. I thought that was quite good.
Very good.
Yeah. It is. But 6-0 last night. Look, I mean, let's be honest, Portugal, not up to much. And this is where the women's game has to improve, because they were substandard opponents last night, Portugal, and if a major sporting nation like that can't produce top players, then that's worrying for the game. But we have to remember that women's game is still in a developmental stage, and you can only assume or hope that over the next 5-10 years, or hopefully even sooner, the standard of competition around Europe, rather than just those select few nations, will improve. And we've got the Euros this summer, which England are defending. It's underway from July the 2nd, which is a Wednesday, I believe.
And what about this story about sex testing becoming mandatory in boxing?
Yeah, well, I think we covered every day, didn't we, the Olympics last summer, and the story we all remember is Imran Khalif, and I just don't think that the IOC or any other Olympic-affiliated bodies really want the Olympics remembered for those reasons in future. Yes, it was a great talking point, and it arguably brought a bit of spotlight onto women's boxing as well, but Imran Khalif won, well, let's face it, won easily the welterweight gold. But in future, she's going to have to submit to gender testing, which I think will be some kind of blood test, or maybe something to do with...
It'll be a swab.
Yeah, I would have thought
just be a swab, won't it? Just for, they want to check the chromosomes, presumably.
XY chromosome. Yeah,
well, that from a swab.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have a bit of a negative view towards the Olympics anyway, for considering all the drug implications, everything, and how it's been affected over the last 20 years. But I think that it needs to be remembered for the sport only, rather than these kind of extraneous stories.
But this is a good move, isn't it?
I would say so, yeah. I would say so. I mean, Imran Khalif might disagree, but...
Yes.
But
it'll be interesting to see who does.
It's a grey area, because, she has the XY chromosome, but she wasn't born... would argue that she wasn't born as a woman, But I have to say the contests looked extremely one-sided.
Yeah, it was awful, wasn't it?
Yeah, one of them was in particular.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't a contest; it was a.
No, it didn't look like that to me. The final wasn't so bad, but there was one of the early round matches where the opponent took a real battering.
Yeah, but it's one of these. I just wonder if this is where the problems.
Yes, Caster Semenya was a similar case.
Caster Semenya was a similar case. I mean, and also, for all you know. You could have XY chromosomes. There are cases. There are cases when
it's called a difference of sexual development. Is that right?
Something like that. Yeah. So although we all go, well, women have XX chromosomes and men have XY chromosomes, that's not universal. Actually, there are cases where, for whatever reason, that doesn't happen. I mean, don't ask me why. I'm not a geneticist, but that is a fact. So if you were then competing in the Anne Diamond Olympics and they said you've got to be tested, and they said, oh, actually, technically, you're male, Anne, and you go, but clearly not.
Well, the Anne Diamond Olympics will only be you, won't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, she's bound to win.
Nice point.
But this is where, so whereas it sounds sensible, it isn't without pitfalls.
No, that's right. Anything medical is like that. It's endlessly arguable.
Yes.
It's difficult, isn't it? Well, I don't know. I don't know what you do about it all. Right, Adrian, it's been a joy.
Yeah, I'm definitely XY, I think.
I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure. The amount of perfume you wear, I'm not entirally sure, Aidan.
OK, gentlemen.
Mind you, he does. The studio does smell nice this morning.
Yes, it does.
When he wafts in.
Yes, he does waft. Yes, no doubt about it. Right, let's talk about holiday sunspots. Here is the forecast for some of the top European hotspots.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Heatwave conditions set to continue across parts of Europe where 40 degrees Celsius is possible, this turning into a thundery breakdown elsewhere. Now, the heatwave conditions will continue across parts of Portugal, Spain and also Morocco, but it's likely we'll see the peak of heat through today. But this turning into thundery showers, particularly across France and Germany, but elsewhere across Rome, the Adriatic coastline and across Greece, it should be mostly dry, settled, still feeling warm in the sunshine, and temperatures into next week still remaining in the mid-20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now, the government is investing over £1.5 billion to improve UK armed forces accommodation to help renew the nation's contract with those who serve.
Well, it's a bid to improve the lives of thousands of British military personnel and their families.
Defence Secretary John Healey spoke on why this move is so important.
We've got to serve them better, we owe them better, and we especially owe them and their families better homes. For too long, our forces have made extraordinary sacrifices to serve this country, and yet we've forced their families to live in substandard accommodation. That ends.
That ends. Well, we talked to Afghan veteran Trevor Coult about that.
Now, 1.5 billion is great. It sounds like a wonderful sum of money, but the government back in 2023 also invested 1.5 billion into this type of scenario. Now, if we break it down, 1.5 billion, you got to remember that the UK has 145 military sites. So what you're really saying is it's 10 million per site. Now, if you look at the fact that a lot of those sites say there's 200 family homes, and you break that down for £10 million per 200 family homes, it's not very much investment. Now, it's wonderful. I think John Healey, he's going in the right direction, but it's just a sticky plaster over a massive wound. Now, when I look at the investment into this, I find it shameful because many years ago, I got in touch with the then veterans guy, Tobias Elwood, and I asked him if it was possible that we could basically utilise an old military camp to house homeless veterans, and there was none available because the government has sold off every single disused or misused military camp to investors that sit back and wait. Now, a lot of those camps were utilised during the pandemic, and the government doesn't have the funds to invest in empty military bases to help veterans or to help military, but it seems to have a bottomless check when it comes to housing people coming across Dover. So when you look at the fact that the government so far are spending tens of millions of pounds each week and each year in updating empty bases to house economic migrants, but they haven't got the money for military families. Now, I was once living in a military accommodation, and the problem you have here is the government goes for the contractor that comes in with the lowest bid. So you're not getting the top quality invested in military camps because it's always the lowest person comes in and gets that contract. Now, for many, many a time, believe it or not, Han, see when something's above head height and you have to reach up, it becomes a health and safety issue, which means that many, many times in military camps, we were told, if the light bulb needs change, you're not allowed to do it. It's above head height. It's a health and safety. So a contractor comes in and gets paid over £50. He gets a call-out fee, and he gets £50 to change your light bulb. So 1.5 billion over 145 bases, over 200 homes per base. It's very, very little, but it sounds amazing. So let's keep going in that direction.
Yeah. I mean, look, get your point. Of course, not everything needs updating. I mean, there is a lot of new accommodation on a lot of sites. I mean, I think of places like Bulford where some of the accommodation is pretty good on camp. But as you say, there are questions within how those properties are managed and the waste of money, and as you say, things like changing a light bulb. I mean, it's absolutely crackers.
Yeah, as I said, it's great that we're going in the right direction. It's fantastic, but this sounds crazy saying this, but I don't think there should be a budget placed on looking after the men and women that serve our country. I think they should just go around camp after camp. Now, this 1.5 billion, by the way, Stephen, is a 25-year plan in modernisation. So in 25 years' time, or should I say in 10 years' time, it's going to be updated again. So it's going to be again out of date. So let's not put budgets on the people that keep us safe.
But they do need to do something and keep it going. I think his idea was that just spending a bit now is sort of tokenism, and it won't be enough to get the job completely done anyhow.
No.
You've got to change the whole regular maintenance.
Well, it's I mean, his idea of saying we shouldn't actually set a budget for this. It should just be sort of an ongoing cost. Which, oh God, they have to set a budget. I mean, of course they do. You can't get away with it. However, it's right. It needs to be a large ongoing cost. The maintenance of these things costs a lot of money. It just does. But what do you want to do? You need these people living in good, solid houses.
Need to help them feel valued as well, and we just don't do that enough. Anyway. No. Right, well, that's nearly it from us. But do stay tuned, because it's Saturday Morning Live next with Charlie and Miriam, who should be over there somewhere.
Morning, team. Well, thank you very much, Stephen and Anne. We have an excellent programme coming up, don't we, Miriam?
We do. Lots of talk about the ECHR, and we're always told that we can't leave it because it would be trashing Churchill's legacy. But new research reveals that he was actually deeply sceptical about the ECHR and even considered leaving it. We'll have the report's author live on the programme.
And top of the programme, we'll also have a big discussion about cousin marriage, because new research has showed that the majority of Britons, even those from communities where cousin marriage is quite prominent, back a ban on that issue. We'll also be discussing how there is a link between cousin marriage and grooming gangs. Is it preventing people clamping down on abuse?
Well, that's all coming up after your weather.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. This weekend, we could see some quite squally showers at times, a risk of thunderstorms, but it's not going to be a total washout. There'll be plenty of brighter spells and feeling particularly warm across the southeast as we head towards this afternoon. They're a very different story across Scotland, Northern Ireland, some quite blustery showers moving their way eastwards. This turning heavy at times, possibly thundery during the morning, but it's really into the afternoon across the northeast of England where we could potentially see some thunderstorms. But across central areas, parts of the southeast, that's where we'll see the best of the brightness, but it's likely to feel quite warm, quite muggy at times, highs reaching around 26 to 27 degrees Celsius. I'm afraid the unsettled weather is set to last across Scotland through much of the day. Still plenty of quite heavy, showery outbreaks skirting their way eastwards, turning quite blustery, particularly across exposed coasts. But across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, it should brighten up nicely. There is still the risk of the odd shower at times. But elsewhere across England and Wales, mostly dry and bright. That's away from Wales, perhaps the far west of Cornwall. A little cloudier here, potentially with some drizzle. But it's really across this southeast where it's going to remain mostly dry and warm, and then overnight once again there should be plenty of dry spells, some low cloud at times, but once again it's across the northwest, western parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland where we see a return of the cloud, some heavy outbreaks of rain by the time we reach the morning, and still quite windy here. And across the southeast, another mild and muggy night to come, many towns and cities not really dropping below 12 or 13 degrees. Now for Sunday, many areas seeing a drier and brighter day once again, mainly across the south, still across Scotland, Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, a return of the blustery showers, but brightening up later, a mix of sunny spells and showers, but it's likely to feel like a fresher day for all, but still highs reaching the low 20s, so it's still going to be warm and pleasant where you catch the sunshine.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to GB.
It's the final week to see how you could be our biggest winner yet. Touring in this stylish Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. This brand new 2025 model comes complete with kitchen and bathroom areas and enough space to comfortably sleep a family of 4. We'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to add a few of your favourite things. Don't miss out as lines close on the 6th of June. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
What do we learn in the letter that Stoker thought about Dracula?
So the letter was sent 6 weeks after Dracula's publication in July 1897. So at this point, it's not, Dracula that we know of now, this sort of almost cultural myth. It's a new and uncertain work, which had been reviewed incredibly mixed. Some said it was amazing, some said it was weird and quite strange. In the letter, Stoker sent out a number of first editions to friends and one actually went to Prime Minister Gladstone as well, basically asking for praise and also asking, here is a signed first edition for you, please let me know what you think of it. Most